All right, guys. All right, are we ready? All right, let's try and start this thing, shall we? In one, two. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful, just like last time. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Razor Gresham stream, Astral's Kindred review, or Kindred's Astral review if you want to do it. I'd like to just start out once again right away with my disclaimer. I have not gone completely in depth with all these cards. I have obviously since my last stream done a little more review on the cards and looked into them and started looking at it because I wanted to build decks. I wanted to see all the stuff that's going on. The Delivered Crab tournament was yesterday. Awesome, awesome. Got to see a lot of really cool, innovative decks. A lot of stuff that I want to try. My own little take on it. Probably won't be too much different from what they did because they did a really nice job. Played it out really good. A lot of good competition. I think it was a really fun time. If you guys ever have a chance to check out a tournament, especially a Delivered Crab tournament or a Light Seekers Play Fusion tournament, definitely go. It's totally worth it. Meet a lot of cool people. See a lot of really innovative and interesting decks, and you get to play. I mean, you get to play the game. It's what you want to do, right? So yeah, my disclosure. I'm just what my review is for these cards. I'm gonna look at them, look at their, what the abilities do, all the stats and all that stuff for the numbers. Give my review based on the previous meta, because what I have been finding out is that the decks from the previous meta are just that good. Yes, they nerfed a lot of cards. Yes, they banned a few of them. But I mean, those cards just get taken out of the decks and replaced with other ones, and that deck will still be a viable deck. Unless you literally come up with an entirely brand new deck around these new families, which I strongly encourage you guys to do. I really do. I think there are going to be some amazing turnarounds with these cards. What I think is that based on the past meta, not a whole lot is going to change from the top tier decks. Unfortunately, because that's just how card games are. Until sets completely rotate out, then we have to completely redo decks, completely remake and rethink the entire game. So yeah, my review here is just going to simply be based how I think this card is going to change or adapt to the current meta as what it is with the cards, especially since the app hasn't even come out, so we haven't got to see all this stuff. Do I think it's going to see a lot of play? Do I think it's going to be adapted to maybe a brand new deck? Is it going to be good for the family or inside, or is it just a solid card? So just bear with me on these reviews. I hope you understand where I'm coming from with this stuff, and I hope you either agree. If you disagree, please let me know. Let me know. Say, hey, you're completely wrong. I think you're missing this key card with this other stuff, and let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to hear you guys' opinions on this stuff too, because I don't want to just say my opinion and have that be like the truth. That you're like, okay, okay, I believe him. I want you guys to give me feedback on this stuff to see if I'm doing well. So yeah, as we go, let me just turn on a lamp real quick. It looks like I'm a little dark. Ooh. All right, does that work? Maybe? I don't know. I'm hoping it does. Looks like it works. All right, so as we go forward, just take that into consideration, and let's get on with this review, shall we? First, no, that's not what I want. First card, Arcane Investigator. So right off the bat, we got a new Chimchu card. I'm loving it, loving the Chimchu set. I'm really hoping that I can make an entire Chimchu deck and really get it adapted, even if I have to splash in a few colors here and there to make it work, because Captain Blacktail is a Chimchu hero, and I really want to see what they have going on for it. I haven't looked too much into blue if they have anything there, but I'm thinking, maybe even not just a solid Chimchu hero. There were a lot of really cool ones that I liked when I did the hero review, so I'm hoping this family turns it around. So 2 clunky corners, perfect, which means it's not going away unless you do something. Gain 1 additional action as this enters play. Right off the bat, love it. Astral is very good at just getting additional actions, keeping your turn, consistently going, making it so like it never ends. You have like 4 or 5 different actions as opposed to your opponent only having 2. It's really what Astral does really well, so that you consistently have a good turn drawing cards. You never feel like you're not doing anything. That's what I love about Astral. That's why I always recommend to people who start off the game, try Astral, because you're always going to feel like you're consistently doing something. Defendability. Look at the top card of your deck. You may move it to the bottom, gain an additional action. So right off the bat, obviously you can't use the ability when it comes into play. That's everyone knows that. Defendability, so you look at the top card, which is what, once again, Astral is really good at doing, is making sure the top of their deck is what they want it to be. And the best part about this is a lot of cards that say, like, move it to the top of the deck. If it's not, put it in your graveyard or something like that. But this just goes to the bottom. Now this just goes to the bottom, and you gain an additional action, regardless of what you want to do. So, I mean, it's not even like you're losing half of your turn to do this ability. You're just looking at the top card. If you want it for, say, a Thunder Slug, or not a Thunder Slug, Gravity Snail, Anti-Gravity Snail, you can be like, all right, is this Gravity? It is. Let's put it to the bottom. If we know we're going to play this card, put it on top. Or Shapeshifter. If you want it for healing or if you want it for damage, this is just really good at stacking your deck. I know the card Zeppelin Scout didn't see a whole lot of play because a lot of people built their deck really synergistically to look at the cards. So Zeppelin Scout really wasn't seen, and maybe it was like a sideboard or a one of a deck because I mean after a while you just wanted to draw cards. You didn't really care what the top of it was. But I mean if you are in that state of mind, if you really want to manipulate your deck, I think this is a really good card. I think it's just going to be a solid card. A, you get additional action. B, using the ability doesn't lose half your turn. And you get to essentially manipulate the deck so you know what you're going to draw. You know, like, hey, I mean, take for instance, a lot of the Astral decks run like 3 Umbron Informants, cards that just draw you cards. But if you already have a lot of cards, you don't want that one. Put it on the bottom of your deck, and then you get additional action so you can draw hopefully a better card. Especially there is a card, what is it, Anti-Gravity Well or Gravity Well? I'm trying to think of the card now. That you look at the bottom 4 cards of your deck, and you get to play one of them. So putting this card on the bottom of the deck, yeah, Gravity Well. So if you put it on the bottom of the deck and you run Gravity Well in that deck, you can still play that card. You know it's one of the bottom 4. So this card I think is a really good card. I want to put this card at around a 4 to 5. I don't think it's going to be like a huge game changer. It's nothing that's really going to like change the game, but it's a solid Astral card. It could go on many decks, not just a Chimchu deck. It is a Chimchu obviously, so it can work really well in the family. But I mean, it's just a solid card for Astral. I think a lot of people are going to use this. I mean, with Gravity, in my opinion, is one of the best ones for Astral to be spliced into other decks because they have cards like what is it, Spectral Guide that allows you to draw cards. It has Pathfinder. It has no, those are Lunar cards I'm thinking of, the other ones. But I mean, Gravity is a really solid one just for deck manipulation. The support that it brings to Astral is just a really good one to splice into other colors. So I think with this, just splicing this in for like 1 or 2 just to get an additional action and make sure you're not drawing dead card after dead card, it's going to be a really good card. So I think this card is actually going to see a lot of play. Now, I don't think this is going to be a card that you run 1 of or 3 of. At most, you're going to run 2, but I think a lot of people just run 1. I think you're just going to run 1. It has no burn, so you can bring it back if you really want to, which Astral and a lot of other colors are starting to get really good at graveyard manipulation to bring stuff back to their hand, to keep doing that stuff so that it's more of a cyclical stuff where like if it's in your graveyard, no, not in your graveyard. They even made a new Alana card, which when I will get to it, I will review that as well. But there's one that literally says every graveyard has burn, so you can't do that stuff. And they made a card because they know that the way this game is going and the cards are printing out is going to be heavy in graveyard manipulation. So I think this is just a solid card, even if you just put 1 in. I mean, just put 1 into a deck, you're going to be happy. You play it, you get an additional action so it doesn't take up your draw slot. Use the ability, doesn't take up your draw slot. Like, this card is just, it's a really solid and strong card, I think. That's my review on that. Next one. If I can click on the screen. No, next one we have is Battle Priestess. Battle Priestess, 4 corners, 3 do nothing, 1 is finally active. Any healing you receive is also dealt as damage to your target. This one, I think, is going to be a very strong card. Like I said, Gravity, it's really good to splice into other colors. I think this might even be one that you splice into something like Blue. Blue has a lot of really strong healing with Vitalizing Frog, with Confused Shaman. I mean, even Delivery Crab, 3 healing, draw a card. Things like that where, like, you receive healing, but then also damage your target. So it's instead of like a Vitalizing Frog, take for instance, is a 6-point swing. That 1 card becomes a 12-point swing, where you go up 6, your opponent goes down 6. Cards like that really change the dynamic of the game, and I think if this card is left on the field, and, in late game, it could be your big final push. This is just a solid card. I want to give this a 5-star rating. Because it's very, like I said, very versatile, not just in Astral, but in several other decks too that utilize a lot of healing. This could push very defensive decks to be their final kill after their opponent wastes a lot of their buff removal, uses a lot of it to kill their stuff. You put Battle Priestess out, you're like, oh, okay, well, this could be really difficult to do. Put this in a blue deck, like I said, Flood now becomes a 22-point swing. It hits them for 11 and heals you for 11 in late game. That's enormous, especially in blue if you're playing like, if you're grinding out time limits and you need a point swing. This could be that one where you time it up and you set it up where you can have a massive turn. There's just a lot of really good stuff to do with this, and it's like it's any healing. So all of your healing buffs that go off too, before or after this that you put before it, and it has 4 corners. So there's several times to lead that up. There's several stuff you can do to lead that up. You can put guard snails in if you select. Like I keep going with blue. And blue is a really good bad example because this is an Astral card, but blue has a lot of the healing. Astral cards, you can put in the Lunar Offering, which is a lunar one, so you can play this alongside it with 11 healing on that turn. So you put Lunar Offering, it has the same 4 corners as Battle Priestess. That's 11 healing for you and 11 damage to them, and that's just one ability. Then if you have, say, Lunar Mastery, you can Dusk Feeder for 7 and hit them for 7. That's 18 damage with just 2 cards, and one of them was an ability. Like, this card has so much potential in massive turn swings, which is, I mean, Astral has a lot of damage as it is, has a lot of healing, several things like that, where I think this one is just going to be a major push. But back to what I was saying earlier, I think this is going to be a solid card all around, 5-star. I think it's a great card, very well made. Doesn't have burn, so it can be brought back in case you want to use it for late game after it gets killed. You can bring this buff back. It's an action card, so why not, right? But yeah, like I said, this card, like as much as I want to say it's going to be used in Astral a lot because it is an Astral card, I do think this card is going to be one of those that you see actually in a lot more of different color decks. You're going to see it in blue. You might even see it in red with Boulder Feast, with Enchanted Soil, all this stuff where a lot of the healing is very cyclical, very big burst healing. I mean, I don't know if you'll see it in Tech or anything like that, but it's one of those cards that is not just good alone in its order, it's good in every order, which is why I gave it a 5-star rating, because this card is going to be a much sought-after card, and one where you literally see it, and like I said, it's only for 4 corners, so you want to time your removal correctly, but if you can't remove it, you literally have to prepare. You have 3 turns until you're just like, well, I'm going to get hit for a lot, because they're going to just build up their hand and get a lot of really efficient, strong healing. So I think this is a really good card, and I cannot wait to see what comes out of it. Beast Tamer. Okay, so it's a defend card. Restart all your beast buffs. Heal equal to the number of beast buffs you have in play. This is amazing. I think this is going to be really well. Beast, I think, is one of the stronger of the family ones that's going to come out. It's in at least 3 or 4 different orders. So splashing this one into any order like that is going to be incredibly insane. Not only does it restart your beast buffs, which the beast ones, for what I'm understanding, at least what I'm seeing from the heroes, Beast is very rapid rotation. It's very like, hey, if you do this, you get to rotate it 1 or 2 steps forward. So you're going to be cycling all your beast buffs really quickly to get all this burst heal. Laying this on that same turn, when you rotate all your stuff to restart everything, to make it so you can do that stuff again, is going to be a lot of potential for beasts. Especially even if it's a small heal. You heal for, say, 2. Restart 2 of your... yeah, you can restart 2 of your beast buffs, but you have 3 out, so you heal for 3. That's just so much board presence that you have from one card. I, however, am going to give this only a 4-star rating because it is very potent in Beast, but it is not good in anything else. So I think until I know how well that family does, how well the Beast family as a whole is going to do, like I said, I think it's one of the more potent ones, and I think it's one of the, because it's spread out through a lot of different colors, it's going to be popping up several times, that it is going to be a very well-seen card in green, in, or not green, in nature, in storm, in astral. You might even see it in what's the mountain, because I know mountain has some beasts in it too now, with like magma worm and all this other stuff where you can restart beast buffs, and it's going to be a very potent card. But like I said, until I know how well the families do, I can't give this a 5-star rating just yet. So I think 4-star just because of how potent it is, how versatile it is, how much you actually get from just one card based on your board could be really good and really strong. Celestian Beast card. Unique. Okay, so you only have one. You can have several copies in the deck, only one on the board at the time. The other one just goes dormant or whatever, so you can still have it out, I guess. Reduce the first damage you receive per turn by 2 if your last discarded card is a beast card. Once again, I think this is a really good card. This card takes the place of the cards like Turtle Captain, Pollen Weaver, was it in Eternia Defender, the one that's for Mountain, if you have 15 or less health, produces it by 2 or something like that. I mean, this card is just a consistent one if your last card is Beast, which, like I said, if you're running a Beast-heavy deck, which is very aggressive, my guess is it doesn't have a whole lot of defense. So this is going to be an amazing card for Beast decks to sustain and keep in without them, like, going all offensive and have nothing for defense, trying to just, kill them before they kill you. I think this is a solid card. This is amazing for, like I said, once again, this is going off the last card. So many different Beast cards, so many different Beasts in different alignments, that this card is going to be very well utilized, splashed in, especially if they're both Lunar. You can run both those just for putting Lunar into a deck, or if you have Lunar in the alignment. Actually, I think, just going back to the heroes, Farapang had Lunar, and he was a very specific Beast one. I think these are going to be seen in a Farapang deck, definitely. But, like I said, until Beast comes out, I don't know how well the family's going to do. I do want to give this one a 4-star rating, because it will only be used in a Beast deck. It is the first 2 damage. Which a lot of people have been working around since Pollen Weaver, since Turtle Captain, all that stuff, where their first damage is only like 1, and then it goes on to hit for like 7. So this one, I mean, it's good. It's a good, solid, sustainable defensive card for Beast, which I think is what Beast is probably going to need based on how aggressive just that archetype has always been throughout all card games. But until I know how well Beast does, I don't know if this is going to be a game changer where it brings Beasts to the tier 1 rank like Dolo. So yeah, this is a solid card. I think we're going to see a lot of play of this, especially if Beasts come to the rise where they're going to be a very dominant presence, where you have to work out for and play around Beast cards and have other tough stuff like that. So I think this is going to be a really good card. Celestian Spellbreaker. All heroes draw a card face up. If that card shares an alignment with their last discarded card, they take 5 damage. All heroes then discard the card that was drawn. This one for Astral, I think, could be really fun. Because, like I said, Astral has a lot of top deck manipulation, so you can make sure the card you draw isn't a card you want to discard or anything like that. With the, what was the card I'm trying to think of? The one that I just reviewed. The Arcane Investigator. You can, because Arcane Investigator was Gravity, you can use that ability, not lose an action, look at the top card, be like, okay, do I want to keep this? This is the same alignment. No, put it on the bottom. Make sure your next card doesn't hurt you for 5 and hopefully hurts your opponent. Then goes into the discard pile. I mean, at that point, with Astral wanting the top card of their discard pile to be a certain alignment, you could make sure that that card goes on the discard pile so that you can play a card from your hand and get a better benefit from it. I think this is going to be a really good card. I don't think it's going to be game-changing. I know in a lot of the Astral decks, like I said, they want to play their cards, they want to draw their cards, they don't really want to discard them. There's a few that they want to really get discarded so they can bring back with like Reality Rift or even Chimchu Infiltrator, stuff like that. So I think this is just a solid Astral card. But I actually only want to give this a 3. Yes, you draw the card, so you do get the effects from card draw, like Yokona Archaeologist, where you draw it, you get to restart a buff. Yeah, it's really good. However, you have to manipulate the top card of your deck so you don't take 5 damage, because taking 5 could potentially kill you, could put you in lethal range just by yourself. And there are very few cards that want to do that. I mean, if you think about this, this card is a defend card. It's solar. It's trying to take the place of a card they literally banned, called, I want to say Sun Beacon, where you draw a card, discard it, you hurt your opponent for 5, and you heal for 4. That's a 9-point swing with one card that you essentially just discard the top card of your deck. This card is drawing the card. It has to deal, or it has to be the top alignment or element that they share to even deal the 5 damage to them. Otherwise, it could just deal 5 damage to you, and you also discard the card that you drew. So this card like has a lot of downfall from what the card they banned is. So I think like having this card even try to be a replacement is not good. I think this is not going to fill that hole that Sun Beacon left in void. So I'm only giving this a 3. It could be a good card. It could be, you know, a 5 damage defend card, which is what Astral does really well with defense, is deal damage. But it has to be set up properly. It has to make sure that it doesn't hurt you. And it's also like, it could even be a chance that it doesn't hurt them. Like, it's just, okay, I'd mill the top card. That's essentially what this does. While it has a major drawback to mill your own card, deal 5 damage to you. Like, there's just a lot of downfall to this where it's not enough of a guaranteed reward to bring it up to that level. So I think I think a 3-level card, heck, it might even be a 2-level, a 2-star. Just based on like all the stuff you have to work around to put this in a specific Astral deck, as opposed to plugging it into the Cassini or Selene style decks. Where, I mean, Selene is very good at just making sure you discard the right buffs and bring them all back. Cassini discards cards from their hand on their own, so maybe they don't care about that. But at the same time, it's like it needs to fill the void that Sun Beacon left, and this is definitely not the card that it is going to do that. So I think this is I'm gonna go 2.5. I'm actually gonna go lower than 3. I'm gonna go 2.5 because, like I said, this card, It needs a lot of wind up to work properly, is what I'm saying. Next one, maybe. Come on. There we go. Chimchu Commander. Okay, we got another Chimchu card. Awesome. I'm loving the Chimchu set. XX3. Damage to your target. Gain 1 additional action when you play a Chimchu card. Now this, I know for a fact you get 2 copies in the Astral starter deck this time around, because they're going very heavy on the Chimchu. This card it's a make or break Chimchu deck. This card you need almost to have 3, just because how potent it is, because of how much you want to get additional actions when you play cards. So you lay this card, you have 2 turns to build up your hand of really good Chimchu cards, and then on that final turn, you just go off. You can lay 6 or 7 cards if they're all Chimchu, which if it's in a Chimchu deck, it's what you're going to do. And you just keep playing Chimchu cards. You keep doing like Chimchu Infiltrator. Chimchu. Oh God, what's the one that just deals 5 damage? I can't think of it now. Well, there's a Chimchu card that deals 5 damage. There's a Chimchu where it's a buff. Next defend card, you heal for 3, cancels their next defend. There's a lot of Chimchu cards that you can just play back and back and back. Mind you, you have to have the mastery for it, otherwise you can't do it. So putting this in a proper deck, you want almost 2 masteries for it to run a Chimchu deck with this card. So based on a lot of the solar heroes, actually there's a lot that are really good that have 2 masteries. So maybe this isn't a bad card. So I'm gonna give this 2 separate ratings. For Chimchu rating, I'm giving it a 5-star. This is a solid card. This is a card you're going to run 1/3 of in a Chimchu deck because it is so potent. You want to get this off as many times as possible. You want to draw it as frequent as possible, and it even counts towards itself. So like when this goes in the 3rd corner, this counts as a Chimchu card. So you can lay this again, get an additional action, and you can do it for another 2 turns. Like that's how good this card works off just itself. It doesn't have burn, you can bring it back. So this is a 5-star card staple for Chimchus. But because I don't know how well Chimchus are going to do, I don't know how potent they are. As far as I'm aware, they're like very limited to Astral. There might be one here and there. There's the 2 that are in the Unaligned, the Weapon Master and the Blacksmith are actually Chimchu. So maybe Chimchu wants to lead more into a hybrid color deck. I don't know what it really wants to do. But I think it's only going to be like, heck, anything outside of a Chimchu deck, this is not good. I mean, let's put it that way. It's not good. You get 3 damage off a buff. So if it's a Chimchu deck, 5-star. You're going to want this in your deck. If it's not a Chimchu deck, this card it's nothing to worry about. It's almost like a 1-star card, if that, outside of Chimchu. So like that's where my rating goes. It's like it's so heavy presented on that family that unless you're building a specific deck for that family, you never want to see this card. You don't even want to look at it. It's a non-card. So like that's why I split my rating up, because it's that dependent on the family, just kind of how like my Beast one was. My Beast one was very dependent on the family, so I'm gonna give this a 5-star for Chimchu, alone. 5-star for Chimchu if you're running Chimchu. That's that. Otherwise, this card doesn't exist. It's not even in Astral set if you're just running Astral, because I don't know how many. Well, I mean, Astral does have a lot of Chimchu cards, so maybe you only want it for 1 or 2. So I mean, maybe you could splash 1 in and get a lot of additional actions. Maybe it could be good in a Corvus deck, where you just want those additional actions and get them to play Chimchu. So I don't know. I don't know how well this card is going to do, but you're going to want to put it in Chimchu is all I'm saying. Next one, I said Chimchu a lot, so I hope that's okay. All right, Crescent Fall Cultist. This is the first Umbron card that I've seen. So I'm actually surprised. I want to know how well Umbron does. I want to know if it's a viable family group or if it's just one of those that's like, maybe in the future. I know Dread has a lot of Umbron stuff, so maybe Dread is the big Umbron one to go to. That's something I'm definitely going to look at. I'm going to try and look at all of them because I love this game and I explore every nook and cranny of it. Alright, so the defend card. Draw 1 card face up. If it's solar, increase all damage and healing done for the rest of the turn by 3. Otherwise, take 1 damage. Okay, this card is really difficult for me to review, mostly because with Astral, like I said, they have a lot of ways to get additional actions, just like you saw in that Chimchu one. So for all I know, you want to manipulate the top card of your deck. You want to make sure you know what it is. So with that Chimchu buff, you activate it, look at the top card, make sure it's solar, keep it there, get an additional action. Lay this one, draw that card face up. If it's solar, increase all damage done by 3. So like you could draw that Chimchu that deals 5 damage, that is a solar card, draw it face up, all your damage is increased by 3. Now you just go off with Chimchu cards. Like that one now becomes 8 damage. Chimchu buffs just increase damage by 3. So having this in an Astral deck that runs it really well is going to be an insane, like massive burst potential damage. I think this is going to get, I would give this a 4-star rating because you're probably only going to run maybe 1 or 2 copies of it. It's not going to be something that you run 3. Because, I mean, yes, it draws you a card, but there's so many other Astral cards right now that draw you cards and do benefits to it, like Anti-Gravity Snare, like Shapeshifter, like everything else. It's just, draw a card, you get this benefit, or if there's even some abilities, draw a card if it's lunar, you heal for 1. Still a draw, no downside, you don't take 2 damage, whatever. So this one, it's going to be one of those where it's a big Astral deck for a big swing turn, where you set it up, you manipulate, the stars align, in a sense, is how this deck is going to work. You align the stars properly, so you get all these additional actions on one. Lay this, draw it face up. Like in a Corvus deck, this would be awesome. You're going to want to run Sunstrider in this deck because you're going to get so many actions. You're just going to go off. You're going to do so much damage. And I have a feeling there's going to be a deck out there that runs like maybe even just one of this card. You just hold on to it until the end when all the things line up. and it just bursts for over 30 damage with the cards in your hand that are all Chimchu. You just go off, you start blowing things up, and you're just like, well, what are you going to do? You have no defense, you have no more healing, because I kill you in one turn with like 6 cards. Sunstrider comes out, that's 3 plus the 6, that's 9 plus 3 more. That's 15 damage from one card. You're just like, what just happened? That is insane. So I have a feeling this card's going to be really potent in a certain type of Astral deck, where I want to give it a 3.5. It's not quite a 4 because it's not going to be something that you see in every Astral deck. It's not something you can put in every Astral deck, but it is going to be one that is run in Astral in a really big way, where you just keep it in your hand for that turn when you can do 30 damage in a turn, and your opponent just goes, well, I did not see that coming. Like, it's going to be one of those surprise turns where I think it's going to be really impactful on the game in a sense, but it's something that you're going to want to literally build up towards. It's not going to be something that's impactful the moment you play it. The moment you always want to play, you always want to draw it, stuff like that. You want to build up to this card. So that's why it's a 3.5, because it is a good card, it's a solid card, but you have to work for it. You have to work to make sure that it's a good turn when you lay it. Alright, next one, Dawn Wanderer, a beast card. Finally, we get into the beasts for Astral, because I'm really excited about the beast family. It's one thing that I'm like, oh, I want to do beasts, I want to run all the families, so I'm really excited to see a lot of these families getting intermingled. So 0, 1, 2, while your last discarded card is Lunar, your enemy cannot play combos. While your last discarded card is Solar, reduce your combo cost by 2. Now, this is what I was saying before. Your Astral deck is going to want to manipulate the top card of your discard pile. Just like Arcane Investigator, just like all the cards that basically, discard cards, put them on there. So you want to basically, like, I don't know how well this card is going to do for Beast, because it's like, it can be played very defensively or very aggressively. It's one of those things where you have to just kind of make sure that you do this in such a way, like if you can, the perfect turn for this is if you line it up, lay it, have a Lunar card on top, so your enemy can't play combos. Just keep going, like lay a Mage Ship or something like that, have that in the same turn, or the turn before or whatever. So you keep going, the first 2 corners are like, okay, it's Lunar, so you can't play combos, you can't do anything to me. Turn turns to 2, 1 of your Solar buff expires, Solar goes on top. Your combos are reduced by 2. So you lay like a Black Hole, or you lay a oh god, what's the one? Star. I am really bad with card names. I apologize. I really do. But I mean, there's so many new combos that you can just lay, and even old combos that you can lay. Yeah, there's Black Hole. There is Planetary Alignment. There is the Anti-Gravity Field that you can just potentially deal 14 in the correct deck. That costs 2, so you can really just discard or put 1 back in the deck. Like, this is a very good one that you just lead up to. And I think if you run this in maybe a hybrid color deck, that hybrid cost combo is free. You just play it because it's 2 less. Boom. You nail them with a huge combo for free, and your turn is done. I feel like this card, it's a Beast card. So good, it works in Beast family, but it's not limited to the Beast family, which is what I love about it. I think this card is going to get a 4-star card because, like I said, it's very defensive. Could work really well in a Beast deck. There's that one card for Lunar that just re-rotates all your Beast cards. So this could go back again, and it's a Lunar, so it goes back on top. Then your player can't lay combos. Like, I think there's a lot of really good synergy with Astral that I'm loving from this new set. But I think this is a 4-star card because it works very defensively, it works very offensively, which is what you want to find with Astral. You want to find a card that could do both really well, something you're going to want. I want to say this card is going to maybe a 2 of, not necessarily a 3 of. It's not going to be very impactful because it doesn't deal damage, it doesn't heal. It just kind of really manipulates the board, manipulates the gameplay between the 2 opponents, which is what you want a card to do. But you don't want to have that so many times where you're just like having all these card draws. Or it only prevents combos, so I mean, they can still attack you, they can still defend you, they can still lay buffs. But having it so like what you're in Kill Strike and you're playing against, say, Mountain, you think they have Magma Blast in your hand, you think they have Wrath of the Mountain, something like that, where you're like, they're going to kill me. Lay this. Okay, you can't lay combos. Good. Against Storm. Storm is really heavy on combos. Lay against Tech. You can't lay into your Tech massive combos like Empowered Explosion or Empowered Implant or anything like that. That just massively rocks your world from like the 12th point. So you can keep yourself stable and heal yourself back up after a while. And then you just have a Solar go off, you lay a combo, and then Lunar goes off again, and you re-rotate the stuff. Like, you get so much value out of it. It's going to be awesome. Especially, there's a lot of Solar cards out there that just have combos that after you lay the combo, you get an additional action. So you can, like I said, restart this with that Lunar card. So yeah, I think this card is going to be a really good card to see. It's gonna have a lot of potential, not just within Astral, but you can also splash it into other decks because it's like I said, not limited to beasts. Well, actually, no, probably not because you want Loner and Solar. So it's only going to be limited to Astral. Sorry, disregard that. Complete saying. Disregard that entirely. You're going to want this in Astral alone. But yeah, we'll see what comes from it. We'll see if Astral maybe runs one or two just to manipulate the board. We'll see a very more control-y style of Astral so that it does have those big burst swings. I think that's what Astral's going to more lean towards right now, which is really weird because Astral's last two decks have just been consistent damage. Aside from, yes, I know the Tower Astral deck is very bursty, very keep drawing your cards, all this stuff, wipe them out of the field, and just have a big burst turn. I know I, for a fact, played against it once, not even knowing what the deck really did. I took 36 damage in one turn just because they passed and drew two cards, and I was like, what just happened? How did it deal 18 and 18? That's nuts. Like, that's the potential Astral has for just massive damage. So I think this card is going to see... It's going to see a little bit of play. It's going to see play a lot more in newer decks, but I don't think it's going to have a spot in the current meta where it's going to be worked into other decks because the other decks are refined so well, they do their own thing. They're not going to really want to control the board because they have so much healing, they have so much attacking aggression that really this card doesn't fill a place where another card is like was put in to fill even just an alignment. So yeah, I think 4-star for this one. Hopefully it finds its place in a brand new Astral deck that we can see and we can play with the new cards. That's my hope. Theory. All right, next one. Energy Hoarder, 4 clunky corners, Elemental. All right, I love seeing all the new families and stuff. Burn, instead of discarding, move attack action cards to the bottom of your deck. Now this is interesting because this does not catch with store, so you could lay your burn action cards, as far as I'm aware, if they're attacking, they just get moved to the bottom of your deck. You could keep the top card of your deck or discard pile the same with Lunar and Solar or Gravity or whatever you want to keep on top, and you can just keep manipulating that, especially if like a combo's on top, and with all three, you just keep laying your attacks that benefit from it, and they just go right underneath. You can be very aggressive with this deck, and I think it's going to fill a very aggro-style Astral deck. Even not Astral. You could put this in Tech. You could put it in Tech, and all your attack cards in Tech just go to the bottom of your discard pile, and Tech also runs... it's kind of like Gravity Well, where you look at the bottom 4 cards and you play one of them in Tech. I've seen it a lot in the aggro Tech, where you just play an attack card. Next turn, play that. Look at the bottom card. It's the attack card again. You get to play it and put it back under your deck. This card is gonna. I want to say it's a. I want to put this as a 5-star buff. It's going to see a lot of play. It's going to see a lot of play in aggro decks. They're going to splash in Gravity. Like I said, Gravity is one of the better ones to splash in for Astral in a lot of these aggression decks. So you can just put your attack cards under your discard or under your deck. So you're not thinning out your deck. You're just recycling them essentially for 4 turns. I mean, this could potentially run in any other deck other than Astral. Astral, you get a lot more actions, additional actions. So I don't know how well it does, but you could literally take this card and put a minimum of 7 attack cards under your deck, even more past that. Like it's ridiculous how much value you can get from this one card, not just in this set, but in any set. And if you want to play Elemental, mind you, it has Burn, but Elementals, they're splashed within everything. They're splashed in Mountain, they're splashed in Storm, they're splashed in Nature. I don't know if they're splashed in Tech. Obviously, they're splashed in Astral, and I think even Dread has a few Elementals. Like, that's how amazing all these families are coinciding, that there's a very broad spectrum. There's a few, obviously, that go here and there within their own alignments properly. But a lot of these are just so spread out that they can work and intermingle in so many different ways that I want to say this gets a 5-star. Obviously, it's not going to be a card... I mean, for all I know, if you play this in aggro and it's all you want is to get cards back, you could run 3 of these and just make sure you get your attack cards back under your deck. Because it doesn't catch with the store mechanic. So the burn cards, as far as I'm aware, like I said, don't get stored, because that's what burn means. They can't get stored. They just go to the bottom. If I'm completely wrong, it still works with several other attacks, like Crazed or Fumbling Alchemist, with Looper, with the Chimchu. I'm going to look up this Chimchu name because it's going to bug me if I cannot think of the proper name for it, and I am so sorry about that. Why can I not think of you? Chimchu Militant. That's the one I've been trying to think of. Chimchu Militant, just pure 5 damage. That one's going to be so good. Just store that back under. Make sure you don't run out of all your attack cards, all your damage from this. And it's going to make sure that your deck, that like you don't waste your burn and then they heal back up. And then it's like, okay, well now I have all of these in my graveyard. How do I get them back? They're not in your graveyard. They're in your deck. You can just keep drawing them again. And Chimchu's, or in Astral's, just really good about drawing through its deck. So this card is going to see a lot of play, I feel. Even outside of Astral, I think it's going to see a lot of play. And I'm really happy about that. So this is a 5-star card for me. Flare Main Prowler. XXX5. Damage to your target, gain 1 additional action. It's a beast card. Awesome. This is what I love to see. The beast for Astral, like I said, almost every beast, is they're going to rotate all this stuff really quickly. They're going to rotate in 1 or 2 corners. So this card, like, mind you, look at it like, oh, it's a 4-corner buff. You have to wait 4 turns before you get 5 damage and an additional action. Not necessarily. You lay this, next turn it rotates 1. You lay 1 or 2 beasts, you get to rotate this twice. 5 damage on the next turn plus the additional action to then lay that lunar card to restart your beast buffs. Like, there's going to be a lot of really fun beast synergies in this. Outside, like I said, unless you're running a beast deck to really manipulate the turn synergies, this card is probably not going to see a whole lot of play. Unfortunately, I want to give this like a 3-star card for just bases, because like I said, unless you're running it in a beast family, you're not going to want to play this. It's 4 turns to deal 5 damage. Yes, you get an additional action on that turn, but I've already done like a mild review while I was playing of Tsunami, where you wait 2 turns to do a lot of damage and you get an initial action. There's so many ways to just remove that so you don't get that benefit. It's such a big threat. Mind you, this one is like, maybe they won't see 5 damage. Maybe they won't see this potential damage or whatnot. But there's, I think it's Dawnstalker. Has the same corners, doesn't give you additional action, but has potential of dealing like 9 or 10 damage on its 4th corner. That's impactful. Like, that's something you want to lead up to. Mind you, you don't have to set this one up to get the benefit from it, but 5 damage and additional action, you have to wait that long for. It's a long setup. Astral wants to be very proactive. It wants to keep doing things every single turn. So having this where you have to wait 4 turns if you can't manipulate the speed of it is just going to be not worth it. It's not going to see a lot of play outside of beast decks. I want to give this... This is going to fall under the 2 to 2.5 star rating. It's got, like I said, a lot of playing beasts. Everywhere else, you're not going to see this card because there's so many other beneficial solar cards. You're going to want to play Mage Ship over it because Mage Ship even turns for... It does 2 more damage. Hits them a turn sooner. Mind you don't get additional action, but there's so many cards in Astral that get you additional actions, so you don't need to get one from this card. You can get them from other cards. You can get them from other sources. Do all this other stuff. So it's not... The additional action, like you look at it and go, oh, that's really good. It's not that good in an Astral deck because there are so many other cards that give you additional actions that this is just another one. And if you look at it compared to 5 damage as opposed to other things, it's not worth it. I mean, it's really not worth it to wait 4 turns for the additional action. So I'm going to give this a 2.5 just because of the Beast, where I think it's going to have a lot of synergy in Beast. Otherwise, this is probably get a 1-star. Like, it's never going to see play outside of, like, maybe even Draft. Maybe Draft you play it. Other than that, you're not going to see this card a lot. It's not made to be outside of the family. Guard Howler. 2 healing. Draw a card face up. If it's a Chimchu, gain 1 additional action. Now this one, it's a Beast card. Perfect. You get to lay it in the Beast deck. It also works with Chimchus. It mostly works with Chimchus, but you get to do stuff with Beast and bring it back with Beast families if you want. 2 healing, draw a card. That's fine. That's completely fine. There were a lot of people that were running the Lunar card Oracle, where you just 2 healing, get an additional action. Mind you, you get an additional action, this one draws you a card. Maybe you want that card draw more than the additional action. Essentially, if you're just passing and drawing a card, this is the same thing. If you're playing in a Chimchu deck, you get a more benefit from it. So, like, it compared to that old card, which was run, actually, in quite a few other decks, just to get Lunar on top for the additional action to do all this stuff, in certain decks, this could find a good home, too. And in Chimchu, it's even better, because you get to draw a card with the additional action. I want to give this, right above, like, a 3.5. I want to give this rating a 3.5, because it essentially does the same thing as the Yakona one that draws... I'm really... Like I said, I apologize for being this bad at names, because it should not... I should not have to be consistently looking these up. I should just know them. They're old cards. We've seen them a lot. The Snowcast Elder. Compared to Snowcast Elder, this is almost the same card. If you're playing in a Chimchu, it's better. If you want to look at it that way, that's why it gets a 3.5, because it's right above a good baseline for stuff like that. Playing it in a Chimchu deck only is going to elevate its place. Playing it in a Beast deck, obviously, it's a Beast card, not meant to be played in a Beast deck, which is weird because, like, when you play Beast cards, you think, oh, you want all the families together. But a lot of these elements and stuff are going to coincide. They're going to work with each other really well. So having, like, 1 or 2 of a different element in a big family deck is going to be fine. You're not going to worry too much about it, especially if they benefit that family this much. Getting additional action for drawing a Chimchu card is going to be nuts for Astral. So I want to say it's a 3.5. Because it is going to benefit you a lot just for drawing cards. Mind you, it's not going to work well. It could work well Battle Priestess. 2 healing, 2 damage to them, draw a card, get everything going, really be cyclical, cheap drawing cards, get additional action, kind of stuff like that, where you could have a really big board presence in the right deck. I don't know how well Chimchu is split outside, so I don't know if it's going to go from other colors or not. But just in Astral, I think it's a very well made card that you have to work into a deck. It's not something you can just splash into. Because if you just splash it into, I want to say still go with the Snowcast Elder. A lot of just doing additional actions mean you can use abilities. There's a lot of cards that obviously draw cards, so I mean, like it has its own ups and downs of what you really want in the deck. But I mean, there's no reason to change out Snowcast Elder for it unless you're building a Chimchu deck. That's my theory on it. That's what I'm giving out to you. All right. Next card, Hail Fury Berserker. So four clunky corners, 3 on each of them. If you receive 1 or more healing when you have less than 10 health before the healing is applied, deal damage to your target. Now this could be interesting. This one, I know just from seeing a lot of decks being played at like local tournaments and stuff like that, they're really trying to push the mechanic of having 10 or less health, which is really weird because the only time you saw this type of thing was in tech when it was 15 or less than 15, which is about half. But now they're like, if you're below third, we want to give you a major benefit. I think there was one hero in Storm that's like, if you're 10 or less health, you get an additional action, which not a lot of people play because it wasn't that good of a thing. Like if you were less than 10 health, you were going to die next turn because there's so much burst damage. It's like, oh, 12 damage combo. Here's 2 action cards to deal 5 and 6. Like stuff like that where, you're going to, if you're below that range, you're within death range. Getting 1 action isn't going to help unless you heal a lot. So I'm wondering how much this is going to really impact the game until sets rotate out and there's not as much just massive damage for 5 or for 6 or stuff like that, where it's really going to hurt the game to be at 10 health or less. Because at least from what I'm playing, if I'm at like 12, I'm always thinking like, how many cards do you get in your hand? You got 3? He's probably got some kill cards. He's probably going to kill me now if I don't heal. I better heal back up. And that's at 12, so I don't even get the benefit from this. So I mean, yes, you deal damage to him. Yes, it's 4 clunky corners. There's no family side to it, but this card is just, it's not going to see play. Not until sets rotate out and it's actually viable to be safe at 10 or less health. That's my theory on it. There could be cards that, like if you play Crystal Core, you're fine at going low. You have to really work this card in, but I want to give this, like, it's... Like, the thing is, it has a lot of potential, and I really want to see this card be played because I feel like it could be really good, but Astral alone, this is like a 1-star card. I hate to say it, I really do, because I hate giving cards so low, but looking at this, based on the current meta, this is a 1-star card. Astral's really good at healing, keeping itself above like 15 or 16, doing all this stuff while dealing damage. Even if you splash this into other decks, like I said, you're going to want to never be below 10 or less because that's kill range. You always want to make sure you're like, oh, at 14, okay, I'm mildly here. Like, even if they have 1 card, cool. That means you can lay this card and maybe heal for something. It'll deal 3 damage to them. Cool. 3 damage for healing a 1. Okay, then they have to draw their cards. So you maybe, like, you have to play this in a certain way, but at the same time, your opponent, if playing properly, is going to make sure they can kill you as soon as they bring you down that low. They're going to make sure they can just keep pushing for damage and not let you heal back up. So this card, like, it's not going to see any play until a lot of sets rotate out and there's not a mass burst damage aside from combos. You really have to work this if you want that damage to work. And at the end, like, as soon as you heal above 10 and then you try to heal more, this card is going to stay dormant until you drop back down below 10. So you might only get like 1 or 2 corners off in a game. So if you think about it that way, like, it's only a 3 to 6 damage card with a potential of 12, but you're never going to want to stay below 10 and try and get the stuff while you heal back up above 10. That's why this card is never going to see play. It's not even a family card to put in other stuff like that. It's going to be a card that you put in there. You can even discard it just for something to put Lunar on top. Like, that's its only benefit from what I see. It's a well-designed card for the far future. But right now, it's a dead card. When you pull it from a pack, you should be like, and put it aside, wait till, 2 or 3 more sets when Mythical rotates out, when maybe even Awakening, they cut a lot of cards from deck lists, and you start seeing more minimal damage. But the game, the way it plays, there's so much burst damage, so much damage where you can deal 18 in a turn or 20 in a turn. I've been seeing videos of stuff like that. I did 36 damage in a turn. Like, okay, and when I was below 10, I was dead. Like, that's why this card is, it's not good. And it wants to be good, it's trying to be good, but it's just not good. Because your health is so low. If it was 15 or less, awesome, great card. 10 or less is just, if it's in kill range, that's why it's bad. On to the next one. Ice Feather Mystic. Rotate one of your action buffs 2 steps forward. If you have drawn a card this turn, gain additional action. This, I think, is just a really good card. You can run this in a deck that wants to run, like I said, a lot of the beast cards. So, like, if you play a card that draws a card, like the Chimchu one, draw a card as a Chimchu, get an additional action while dealing 2. Then you lay this, rotate one of your beasts or your Chimchus to 2 steps forward, so it goes to its final corner. You drew a card, you get an additional action. Stuff like this is actually going to see a lot of play in certain decks, even before. In the past meta, in past metas for Astral, there wasn't a whole lot of decks where you wanted to rotate stuff 2 steps forward, unless it was like Celestian Warrior. Even if you do to Mage Ships, you want Mage Ship to land on the 7 so you can try and re-rotate it when you draw cards. So like, or maybe this is one of those cards where it's like, hey, cool, Mage Ship goes off, you draw, you lay something like Shapeshifter, you draw Yukona Archaeologist, so it rotates Mage Ship. Then you can lay this to rotate Mage Ship back to 7, so you can deal 14 and have like a really fun turn like that. And then you get an additional action because you drew a card that turn. You drew the Archaeologist. I mean, even outside of Astral, I think this could be a decent, viable card. There's a lot of ways out there to draw cards on your first action to get this stuff going. Use abilities, draw cards, all this other stuff. So I think this is going to be, I want to say this is a 4-star card. This is one that you're going to see even outside of Astral, but within Astral it's going to do really well. You get additional action, works with drawing cards, makes your buffs that you lay really 4-star or 4-corner heavy buffs, rotate them really quick, get the benefit from it without your opponent having the chance to react to it. I think this is it's going to be a really often seen card. I think it's only going to be like heck, it might only be like a one of in a deck. A one of that just really makes it so that a combo hits home, or not a combo, an action buff that hits home that you want it to hit home for a killing blow. It's not going to be, I mean, maybe you run 2, maybe you just have a lot of aggression buffs with 4 corners that you play in there. You really want it to go off. You want Dawnstar to go off. You want the Guard Snail to go off. You want something with 4 corners to just make sure it goes off. You want Prism Cannon to go off. Prism Cannon might come back. I don't know. You want stuff like that. You just really want it to rotate to its final corner immediately for the killing blow, because you get that before you even get additional action. So that's what this card is used for, is for laying a lot of the 4-corner buffs, rotating them to their final step, getting that benefit, and it's just, it could see a lot of play just based on how many good 4-corner buffs there are, and you really want to make sure you get their benefit from it without your opponent having 2 turns to draw buff removal. So I think this card is going to be, it's a really well-designed card. It's going to see a lot of play. I go to 4-star rating. I can't wait to see what people come up with this stuff. Rotating this for Battle Priestess, getting all that healing off could be really fun. All right, Impatient Scholar. We got another Umbron card. Look at the top card of your deck. You may choose to either discard it or to draw 2, or put it back to do 4 damage to your target. This card, I actually think, is going to be seen a lot. It manipulates the top of your deck, where you can draw it and see what you need. B, it's 4 damage for discarding a card, which is essentially what Sunbeacon did. You just don't get the healing. You don't get the 4 healing, 5 damage, whatever. So you don't get the healing, but you get to draw 2 cards if you choose to discard it. Which for Astral, especially in the previous deck, drawing cards is what they wanted to do. They ran 3 Onward Informants. They ran the Chimchu Lookout to draw cards that were defend. Like you wanted stuff in there to keep drawing. I actually, in my opinion, this is the card that is probably going to replace Sunbeacon in a lot of the decks. Because if you want to discard the card, you can deal the damage. If not, you can draw it, work in the towers for the defend cards, get those off really well. It's one of those things. It's like it's very versatile. It's gonna fill that hole that the Cassini deck or the Selene deck, the Astral Tower deck, that it wants to do. This one, I mean, even could be worked into a few other decks. If you really need card draw, it's card draw. If you really want damage, it's damage. Like that's what I love about Astral, is all the cards are so versatile that I'm going to give this card a 5-star rating. This is going to be used not in Astral. It's going to be, well, it is going to be used in Astral, but not just Astral. It's going to be used in a lot of other alignments as well, because of how versatile it is. It's either card draw or it's damage. Whatever you want at that time, it's what that is. And it's a defend card too. So cards like you can't attack, you can't do this, cancel your next attack. Those cards aren't going to stop this one from killing you. So I think this is going to be a really well-seen card. It's going to be like a 3 of in several decks because of how versatile it could be. This card it's a 5-star rating, and I'm really hoping to see like maybe even an Umbron deck that's just like, why are you running Umbrons? Have this one in there. Make an Umbron deck. It's gonna see a lot of play. I really do, especially after the ban. This card is gonna fill that hole of Sunbeacon. I guarantee it. All right, Loyal Furhorn. It's a beast card. Awesome. Love it. 3 damage. If your last discarded card is Chimchu, you may return one of your buffs to your hand. Really good in Chimchu. Like, aside from that, it's a 3 damage card. So think about it in this way. It's It's like Infiltrator, 3 damage. If your last discarded card is something, you get a benefit from it. Obviously, Chimchu Infiltrator, a lot better because it's based on the alignment, not just a family of cards. Oh, Jato's, come on. I haven't seen your reviews. I cannot wait to watch them. Like I said, that's what I gave my thing. But, dude, it's a 5-star card. The card is going to be so good. I mean, maybe you're really critical on these cards, and I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on them, especially since the last meta, the current meta, all this stuff. But, dude, I think it's going to be a 5-star card. Like, I'm telling you right now, it's going to fill that hole that Sunbeacon left behind. It's going to be that card. Exactly. It's a baby Sunbeacon. I mean, it's yes, you draw a card, or you could draw 2 with the towers, or you deal the 4 damage. Like, it's going to fill that hole. I'm almost guaranteeing it. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. But Loyal Fernhorn, it's gonna be like a mild Chimchu Infiltrator, because yes, you get a benefit, yes, you deal 3 damage and whatnot. It's gonna be running a lot of Chimchu decks. You can return a buff to your hand. You can return the Chimchu one after it's like all your stuff is done. You return the Chimchu buff to your hand, so next turn you can lay it again. Get all this stuff re-going. It's very cyclical, which is what Astral's really good at doing. Outside of Chimchu, I mean, there's a lot of just really good Chimchu cards. Like I said, Chimchu Infiltrator, Chimchu Militant, Chimchu Lookout, that are just run in a lot of decks. This card's probably going to be run several times in just an Astral deck, not even a Beast deck, not even a Chimchu deck, but just because of how... Sorry, Dr. Attila says, or Dr. Attilas, it's really strong. I was making fun of myself because I only gave a couple 5 stars for the... Really? Really? I mean, I haven't gone through the whole set yet, so I mean, maybe I will too. I think that was my only first, maybe second 5-star rating. And I don't even know where I am in this set, so I mean, for all I know, I could do the same review as you. Awesome, man. It's glad to see that, you know, we're somewhat on the same mindset. I really like that. It gives me a big confidence boost that you're almost, or at least that I'm almost up to your power level when it comes to rating these cards. It's a motivational thing coming from the doctor himself. It's awesome, awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I'm looking forward to seeing yours too. I can't wait to watch all your videos. I know you put up 4 or 5 now, so I can't wait for you to finish the set with your friends and go back and look at it and be like, yeah, I was right. Or like, oh man, I cannot wait to see what he's doing. So yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for you too. All right, back to this card. But yeah, I think this card, I want to give this like, man, it's like a 3 or 3.5 card because it is gonna be seen in a lot of Astral decks. It's gonna be better in Chimchu decks, obviously. Maybe it's a solid 3 cards because it's only going to be 3 damage. But, I mean, with all the Chimchu cards that are out there right now that are being played before, this card could just get benefits from it, especially, like I said, from past decks that run a lot of the Chimchu cards. Having this be put in any Astral deck isn't going to be that difficult to do, where you get to return a buff to your hand, you get to return Mage Shift to your hand, you get to return Celestian Warrior, you get to return the Spectral Guide, put it back into play, draw another card because after it's on its last buff. You get to return and be very cyclical with your board, or just return a card to your hand that you can use for a combo. Like, that could be very powerful. So this is probably like a 3.5 to, I mean, maybe even a 4-star. I don't know. I'm going to stick with 3.5 right now. I'm not going to jump the gun, go ahead of my thoughts. But I want to say, I mean, this card, you're probably going to see 2 of them in a deck. I wouldn't go as far to say 3, depending on the deck. Maybe it's 3. Maybe I'm underrating it, and you want to put 3 in there to make sure you consistently return the buffs to your hand with getting the 3 damage. Maybe it's that potent of a card. But for right now, I want to say it's like a 2 of in a deck, which is why it only gets like a 3.5. But it's not going to be hard to splash it in. It's really not. With all the Chimchu cards that are out there that are just solid to put into an Astral deck, it's going to be good. It's not going to be seen outside of Astral. I don't think this is a card that you want to splash Solar in to put it in other decks or like a Beast deck, because obviously it relies on Chimchu to do its thing. Otherwise, just looking at it, it's a 3 damage card. There's a lot of cards out there that deal 3 damage and get more benefits from it. So this is a card that is going to stick within the Astral family. I can guarantee it. And it's going to be, I mean, it's going to see a lot of play just in normal Astral decks. It's way better than Chimchu, but it's not that hard to find a lot of good Chimchu cards in the current deck lists that are out right now. So I think 3.5 is going to be a solid rating for it. Moonbeat Corvid, X3-4. If it's a Beast card, awesome. See, this is a Beast buff that you can re-rotate with the card that I gave before, so let's see what it does. If your last discarded card is Solar, deal damage to your target. If your last discarded card is Gravity, healing. Once again, a very versatile card, one that can also defend and heal. It's going to see, I think it's going to see quite a bit of play in some Solar Beast decks. For all I know, this could be one that you want to rotate twice through. You know, you lay this card, lay the new one that I just wrote, or I can't think of the name because it's so new. You rotate one of your buffs too, deal 7 damage, get a kill shot with this, get an additional action if for some reason you're able to draw a card with a bunch of other stuff. Rotate it back with a lunar card. Like it's going to see a lot of play. Obviously, it could, if you want healing, make sure Solar's on top before you re-rotate it. It heals for 7, or it can deal 7. It all depends on what you need, and that's what I think is really going to be seen about this card. I mean, even if it's not a beast card or a beast deck, it might even see play outside just for the healing or the damage. However, just because it does healing and whatnot, it is, like, mind you, minimal. A lot of people will probably want to see if we can get the damage out of this with how aggressive Astral is being. But there's just a lot of other Astral buffs that do more. It's a guaranteed 7 from Mage Ship with the same amount of corners. Celestian Warrior, it's a solar one that does the same damage. Mind you, got to wait one more turn without you having to set it up. So, I mean, running it over those cards, with what those cards do and how potent healing is with all of the, like, Shapeshifter, like, the one that can heal for 7. I can't, it's such a potent card in Astral. I'm so bad at names. Duskfeeder. Lane Duskfeeder, you heal for 7. So, like, you might not even need this buff to heal for 7. Mind you, yes, you can return this card to your hand with all the stuff that's coming out for Astral, but based on the last meta, I don't think this card has a place over another card, just because of how situational it is, how all the other buffs do what they do really well. They do damage really well. The Mage Ship does damage really well. Some of them even do healing really well with Lunar Offering that you can rotate to its final corner. That this card, I mean, it's very situational to work. Like I said, Astral does it really well with situational, getting the top card of the discard pile to be what they want, all this stuff. So I'm sure a lot of good players who play Astral can make this card work really well to their advantage. Could get the healing, but it's one of those, it's like, because it's a buff and not an action card like an attack or defend where you can just make sure you have it, you really have to work for it. So this is probably only going to get probably a 2-star rating, unfortunately. Like, it's a good card for what it is. The numbers are solid 3 and 4, but because you have to work so hard to get your graveyard lined up, there's so much stuff where your opponent can remove buffs to manipulate your graveyard so that the Lunar's on top and it does nothing. There's always that chance that it does nothing, which is why that card, it's probably not going to see a whole lot of play, which is really sad. In a Beast deck, maybe Beasts are really good at running Solar and Gravity, and the few Lunar cards they have are just going to be their healing. And this one is going to be like, hey, you know, I'm at full health, I have all this defense for healing, and fine, that's whatnot, do what you want to do. But I'm going to make sure I want to get the burst damage with all my Solar cards, all my Gravity cards. So, from what I understand, maybe this card could be good in a certain deck, but as the current meta is right now, I don't think this card is going to see a whole lot of play, if any, based on the other cards that are just more potent, more viable of doing what they do. That's why I'm only giving this a 2-star rating. I hope I'm wrong, I really do. I hope I'm wrong about a lot of these low ratings, but for right now, from what I'm seeing, it's a 2-star card. It has no place over some of the other cards that came out in Awakening or Mythical, because it's so situational. There's a chance it does nothing for 2 turns, which could just be really bad. And, I mean, that's the fact of it. It could do nothing. That's the whole point, and you never want a card to just sit there and do nothing. It's a sad feeling to have. Alright, Snowcast Seer. 4 corners, all have an ability. Draw a card when the center's play, when it expires. Oh, and when it expires. So 2 card draws for 1. It's not bad. Any any other hero that draws a card must do so face up. This card is, it's probably only going to see a 1 of in a deck. It's definitely not something you're probably going to run 2 or 3. Obviously, yes, card draw, good, whatever, 4 corners, keep it on the field. But it's definitely going to be one of those where, like, going into the mid and late game, you put it down, and whenever your opponent starts drawing cards, they literally have to show them to you. They have to go, okay, I drew this combo. Okay, I drew a Crystal Leech or something like that. And in a lot of tournaments and a lot of people, this might be a deck that comes with a notebook, because you're going to want to write down what cards they drew. Like, okay, this is what's in their hand, this is what's in their hand, I saw them play it. And then when they start paying for combos, you're like, okay, I can cross those off, those ones got shuffled back into the deck. For 4 turns until this removes it, you get to see what they draw. And there's a lot of cards in Astral, even the new Astral weapon for Gravity is going to make them draw a card. Mind you, it does so face up anyway. But, like, just knowing what's potentially in your opponent's hand could be very beneficial to you. If you're playing a more control-y style Astral, or even just aggression, you want to make sure your buffs stick on the board. You want to make sure there's nothing to look out for. Or, like, if they drew a combo and you know, like, okay, they have a mountain or just drew 2 or so mountains, he can lay this combo his next turn. I need to heal. I need to get without a death range. Like, knowledge is so potent in these card games that this card is probably going to be I want to say 4. Mostly because Astral, the way it plays, cares about their own deck, does their own thing, plays their own way, has a lot of really beneficial healing where you're never going to really find her in a way to be at lethal range with how much big burst healing you have, all this stuff like that. But like running one of in almost any deck, like this deck being splashed into any other color is going to be potent just because don't think of this as a card where it's a card, it's a buff that's on the field. This card alone itself is going to give you knowledge, which is so beneficial to have against your opponent. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna let you see what's in their future hand. It's gonna let them you start taking notes of what to look out for. That this card alone is gonna be, it's a one of card. You're not gonna want to play a whole lot because you're gonna want to, you know, make sure that it's not all the time, but it's definitely like late game, early game. Early game you put it out, you get to see their next cards. Then four corners it goes away, and that's when they play those cards. And like, okay, well now I don't know what I'm really in danger of. I was in like 30 health before. There's nothing I really needed to look out for or keep an eye out for. Graveyards are now open, so like you can't even be like, okay, well, can I look at your graveyard? How many Crystal Leeches? How many Thunder Slugs are in there? You gotta look out for that. But like one of in this deck is going to be really good, but I don't think it's going to be as potent as I would like it to be. With how aggressive some of the decks are, how Astral, it literally does its own thing. It plays its own way without really caring what your opponent does, in a sense. Like with Crystal Towers, like I said, you draw, if they remove them, okay, you Reality Rift, you bring it back. Okay, a Chimp Infiltrator, I bring it back. Like, there's not a whole lot of stuff that you really want to be worried about in that sense. But it is a card that you could splash into any deck just for one of, because, like I said, knowledge is power. And in these card games, knowing your opponent's hand, knowing that stuff, is not only a threat for them, but B, it's a superior advantage to you, and it draws you two cards potentially. So like, there's so much you get from this one card that you really just don't see because you don't think about knowledge as opposed to what can these cards do for attack and defense. It's okay, now I know what to look out for. Now I know what to be aware of to try and prevent and play around that your opponent doesn't know. Your opponent can't see your hand, but you can start looking at their hand and taking notes. So like, that's why I give this one a 4-star rate, or a 4-star rating. I really, like I said, I really want to give it a 5-star, but I don't think we're in that set of mind frame yet where the games are going to be very back and forth, as opposed to like, hey, I can deal 20 damage in this one turn. Hey, I'm just going to be consistently attacking you. I only have like 2 cards in my hand with Tempest or something like that. Where later in the games, I really hope it's like, okay, if it's a combo deck, obviously you're going to play this. Make sure you start looking out for the combos that they play or all this other stuff that they want to do. So it's a very, very, very good card that a lot of people are going to run and want to splash in at least one of, just because of how important knowledge is and future knowledge is. So I give it a 4-star. Starforged Warrior, 3 damage. When this card is on top of your discard pile, all other heroes' items are dormant. This card it's going to be, I think within this new set, just because of how many new items there are, it's going to be a lot more potent than a lot of people think. Because, I mean, it's not just item abilities, it's items. Their base trait, anything like that, is dormant. I looked at a few of the items before. A lot of them were like, hey, you know, prevent damage. Hey, if you're at this point, you can't do this. Hey, here's an ability that deals like 2 damage, or if there's a consistent ability, stuff like that, without getting too much into them when I go to the review, so that I'm not spoilers. But like with Astral, we just gave a review of that elemental one where all your attacks cards, they go right back onto your deck. So keeping this on top is not going to be that difficult. There's cards that, like I said, will just, hey, bring the top card of your discard pile back, or hey, search for your discard pile, bring this card back, so you can then play it again. I think this card is going to be really viable in a deck where it manipulates your discard pile. It's probably only going to see 1, maybe 2. Maybe 2 if it's a really weapon-heavy deck. But at the same time, like 3 damage, it's probably even going to just be a sideboard card. Honestly, until we find out what these new decks are capable of, what the items are capable of, just based on the previous meta, the only items you need to really worry out for are like... Or wait a second, is it all items are dormant, or are there traits? Because if it's items are dormant, that means they also lose benefit to like the alignment that they do. So if they have a shadow weapon out, all their shadow buffs become dormant too. If that's how I'm reading, maybe I'm giving this a wrong rating. Maybe this is a lot better than I thought, because there are a lot of strong decks out there that rely on, like the Trianu deck that uses shadow. Making that shadow buff just go dormant means all the tentacles also go dormant. So maybe that's how this card works. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. If that's the case, this is going to see a lot more play than I'm thinking. Honestly, this is going to see like people are going to splash this in just to ruin people's big turn synergies. Make sure that they can't do everything they want to do with. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So if that is correct, this card, I'm giving a completely wrong rating. This card is going to be, ooh, that's difficult now. Before I was like a 3, but now I'm pushing more towards like the 4.5, even a 5-star rating, just based on some of the previous decks there at the top. Maybe it belongs in the 4 to 4.5 range, because obviously Dolo is just straight red, so it's not going to worry too much about Dolo. All the Cassini decks and all the Selene are going to run straight Astral now, especially after the nerf of, what is it, Chrono Warper? No, Flynamo. Wow, wrong weapon. Flynamo is now banned, so you're not going to see a whole lot of that sliced in, especially into Sicario. Sicario used Flynamo as well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Attilas, for clarification. Yeah, maybe this card is going to see a lot of play. It's going to be one that's actually splashed in. Gravity, like I've been stating from the very beginning, Gravity is going to be one of the better ones to splash into a lot of decks. So I want to give this like a 4 to 4.5, just based on the last set list, where it's obviously not going to shut down Dolo, it's not going to shut down Cassini, but it is going to partially weaken Trianu by quite a bit, with so it can't lay Mimicking Horror on the turn that Vine Lash goes off, where they can't pull out those big turn swings, where it's like, okay, well, crap, what do I do now? Now I can't even use my Tentacles. Now I can't do anything like that. So like, maybe this card is just really good at countering those big heavy combo decks. So like I said, it's probably only going to see a 1 of, maybe even a 1 of in the sideboard. Just 1 of in the sideboard is fine, because if you're not facing a deck that runs an item, it's a 3 damage card. It's not going to be good. Who cares? Your item doesn't have any weapons. They're nothing to you. Until we figure out what a lot of these new weapons are dormant or has potential in a lot of decks, maybe they won't be running a whole lot of weapons. I know there's a lot of heroes out there that say you can't equip weapons. So, I mean, maybe those heroes are going to be really good. You won't see a lot of this stuff. But this card is definitely going to be one that stops combo decks. And the more frequently we see combo decks, like cards with Mimicking Horror, like cards we see that utilize splashing in another color to do ridiculous synergies like that, this card is going to be the one that shuts them down. And if that's the case, then this card is going to see a lot of hype in... It's going to be like almost a 1 of in all sideboards that splash in Gravity. I can guarantee you that. But yeah, if the meta changes, it could be a 1 or 2 of in just any deck that runs Gravity, just to make sure you have it in your hand, so that you can keep it in your hand to stop those combo turns, to stop those turns when just stuff gets real, just really difficult. And then they have to either, get rid of your buffs, make you attack or defend, but then once again, you can just bring it back to your hand with Chimchu Infiltrator, with all this other stuff, and play it again. It's going to see like a lot of play, and I think this is going to be a really fun card to mechanically use around. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 to 4.5. Stops a lot of combo decks almost dead in their tracks, makes it so you can't lose to like a big 28 turn hit or a 32 turn hit. But until I know how all these other decks are going to run weapons, how they're going to do with these weapons, I mean, for all I know, a lot of the weapons are going to be used in the same color decks just because the abilities work really good with those other colored decks. So you don't care about the trait dormant, you just care about the ability dormant. So that's why I'm giving it that rating. Yeah, probably only see 1 or 2 in a deck. Maybe sideboard is where it's best home at. But this card is a very, very good sign to stop those longed out decks that just kill you in 1 turn with a weapon synergy. So I'm really happy they made this card. I think it brings a lot to the game, knowing that there's a way to essentially prevent you from dying in 1 turn, which was always really difficult to do, especially if they just did a late game. You ran out of all your tools, all your mechanics to do this stuff. So seeing a card like this makes me really happy to see. All right, Sunplane Charger. 4 damage to your target. Restart this buff if your last discarded card is Gravity. Okay, so right off the bat, it's XX4. So it 4 damage. Beast card, really good. Love the Beast aspect. Has potential to just restart, which could be really good. I mean, think about it. If you compare this to Mage Ship, 3 less damage, but it can restart for an additional 4 more damage as it continues going. This is going to be a much bigger threat to buff removal, especially if Astral becomes more of the cyclical poking damage like the towers were, where you just draw new 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and have the chance of starting in 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and all this other stuff. However, Astral does have a chance to restart a lot of buffs with Yukona Archaeologist, with some other cards that I think Gravity Meddler rotates a card back for 1 corner. So maybe you want to lay this on the corner, Gravity Meddler, do something else with the Gravity Superior, rotate this back once the next turn it hits for 4. You have a Gravity card on top afterwards, re-rotates back to the starting beginning, and you utilize it like that, just consistent damage. So having a buff with only 4 damage, but has the potential to deal like 8 or 12 if your opponent doesn't remove it, could be potent, could be really potent. I mean, in a beast deck, this could be a lot of fun. Rotating your beast one step forward, making sure gravity's on the top when you do it, so it rotates back so you get more benefit from it. This card, I want to say, is like is going to be in the 3.5 to 4. I don't think it's going to quite take over what Mateship did, just like I said, because of how many times you can re-rotate buffs with Astral. You can bring cards back with Astral, so keeping it on the board isn't that big of a problem. Stuff like that, but it could be utilized in some late games, so they just have no buff removal, and you just keep restarting that buff over and over and over again to consistently deal 4. It could potentially become, what's the mountain card, where it's XX4, restart this buff, and it only restarts if you take damage. Like there's something in that in mountain where this card could be that card. Obviously, you didn't see that card in a lot of mountain decks because mountains were very aggressive, but maybe the new meta is going to lead towards more of a consistently tempo damage style, and this one could have a very good place in it. To just the potential of restarting a card. Power Hoarder, thank you. God, Dr. Toast, you just either know all these cards or you're able to look it up a lot faster than I am. I'm so glad you're in the chat right now. Yeah, I think Sunflame Charger could see some decent play. Right now, I don't think it has a place in any of the current high meta decks because of how well the other buffs are for potently dealing their damage. But, I mean, I can't wait to see what Beast has to offer, because Beasts, like I said, rotate their buffs really quick, making this one restart when it's on Gravity, having it rotate really quick when it could be a lot more potent than I'm thinking. And I'm really interested to see how this comes into play, how it does, because having it just deal XX4, restart, like, you also have to make sure you play your Gravity cards, and sometimes you just want to lay Sun, be Solar, be really aggressive. Having that push for the Final Four, maybe this only goes off twice. Yes. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Power Hoarder, I think one of my friends, Chasm, tried splashing Crystal, and that was one that he just extremely loved because it was so consistent damage. It's either you remove it or it stays on the board, and he was very fascinated by it. I'm personally, I want to build a deck and like try and make that work too. But no, yeah, I think Power Hoarder is a very good card, a very nice mechanic that I actually am surprised did not see a whole lot more play. But that's just because that's how the meta is right now, where it's a lot more aggression and you don't want to see a whole lot of cyclical damage like that. But I love those play styles. Insect Swarm is one of my favorite cards for nature just because it stays on the board and just keeps poking you. I love that card. But yeah, this card, I mean, I want to say it's like a 3.5. It's right in the mid-range. It's a decent, it's a solid card. Has potential to do a lot more. Obviously, you have to work for it like any other Astral card. You got to work to make these cards good. That's what Astral's really good at. You got to play correctly to do big plays like that. But even 4 damage is not that bad. Celestial Warrior ends on 4 damage, so I mean, getting that 1 turn sooner, benefit from it. But yeah, as right now, it does not take the place of a good buff in a lot of certain decks, at least that I'm aware of. But I'm hoping there's a deck that does find this really well, can have it restart cards. I know I play a solar deck that runs Reality Rift, or not Reality Rift, the Reality Twister, the Elemental, where your top card of your discard pile is every single one of them. So having ways to just rotate this buff really quick while that buff is out, having hit for 4 could be really fun. Like, there's a lot of really fun and really manipulative ways to play Astral, and I'm really hoping to see a lot more different card mechanics out of this stuff. So I'm crossing my fingers, hoping we see some really cool deck designs. And I think that Sunplane Charger does have a spot soon, but not in any of the current decks. I think it has something to do in a new deck, which we could see a lot of fun potential, but in the past meta, in the current regime, I don't think it has a spot in there. I think it's something for the new wave, the new generation of players to manipulate with, and that's what I'm crossing my fingers we come to in this new set. All right, Suntop Gallery. It's a buff, so it stays out consistently. Unique, so you can only have 1. All the rest are dormant. That's kind of what it means. Increased damage, healing, and draw effects from Chimchu cards by 1 if your last discarded card is Lunar. This card, I think, is going to see a lot of play in Chimchu decks. Like, this is going to be some really fun, really beneficial stuff to go off of. Like I said, a Reality Twister, the Elemental card that I was talking before, it's Reality something, is going to make this card be really fun because it's going to be a Lunar card. So you're going to want to play this in that massive Chimchu deck with the one where you lay a Chimchu card, you get an additional action. Then with this, your draw effects, your healing effects, your damage effects are all increased by 1. Now, there's a Chimchu card that's going to come up soon that literally does all 3 of those. So if you put Lunar on top, or if you make Lunar on top, you get 3 damage. You get, or no, is it 1 damage, 2 healing, and draw 1 card? We'll come to it soon, but basically it's going to increase like 3-2, draw 2 cards, and it's the Chimchu card. You get an additional action while drawing 2 cards. Like, you're going to see some major plays come out of these Chimchu decks that I'm really excited to see. Like, I have a feeling that now more that I'm looking at these cards, Chimchu is not going to be a consistent damage deck. It's not going to be a consistent like the other Astral decks are. Chimchu, from just what I'm seeing and how I'm picturing this in my head, is going to be just one of those massive turn decks where you build up to it and you just lay like 5-6 cards in a turn and just wipe them out. And they're like, I got overrun by birds. What? What is going on? That was like a 1950s movie. Why is it happening right now? It's so weird. Yeah, I think this card is going to see a lot of play if Chimchu becomes a lot popular. It has so much potential for just mass benefits. It doesn't just increase drawing, not just healing, not just damage, but all 3 of them for this family. So like if you're playing a family deck for Chimchu, this is a staple. You almost want to run 3 of these cards just to make sure you have one out. Mind you, I don't know how fast Chimchu's going to draw, how fast you can rotate through your deck. Maybe you only want to have 2 so your deck isn't too flooded down with them, because it could be one of those cards like when you go back to the Umbreon card. You discard it to put it on top because you already have 1 or 2 in your hand, and it's not good to keep in your hand. It doesn't have burn, so you can bring it back. So even if it goes in your discard pile, bring it back with a Chimchu Infiltrator, put it back out. Like all this stuff to make it really worthwhile. But just like a consistent buff that's just going to keep granting you all these damage and all this benefit is nuts. It's so nuts. I play a deck with Suntop Monastery, and I love even just having one of those things out. I'm surprised that one does not have unique on it, honestly. Like, Suntop Monastery, having 3 of those out, having a Mirror Beast hit for 9 is ridiculous, and I love it so much. But, like, this card, I think, is going to just bring that potential, that burst potential from Chimchu, which is where I'm seeing a lot of these decks leading towards, is Chimchu is, like I said, just going to be a massive one-turn play where you build up to it, you draw these cards, you lay 5 or 6 in a turn, and you deal, like, 18, 20 damage to the person, and you just wipe them out. And with this card, it's going to be a staple in it. I'm going to give this a 4-star rating. Would get 5-star if it was just all of them, because if it was all of them, this card would be just nuts. It would be broken in every sense of the word. It would be seen in all Astral decks if it was just from your cards if Lunar was on top. But because it's Chimchu, I'm taking off a star because it does have its own place in its own deck. It cannot be placed in the current meta the way it is. Like I said, I did say before there are a lot of Chimchu cards out there that do really well stuff, but not beneficial enough where you're going to want to get a benefit from this. Because like I said, Chimchu Militant only increases the damage done by 1. You don't get to draw a card, you don't get the healing, you have to put Lunar on top. So like even if you Chimchu Lookout, Chimchu Lookout then has the potential to draw 4, but the moment you draw a defend, will still cut it off. It still stops the card, you don't get that extra benefit from it. Then you lay Chimchu Militant and you only get 1 damage. Like that's where this card becomes a little tricky, like even in the current meta, just having those kind of stuff, it isn't going to benefit the current meta. It's something you're going to see in the future in better decks that come along. And that's what I'm really hoping for, is all these new Kindred decks to come along and see how just massive the game changes. So I am going to give this a 4-star. It's going to find its place. It's going to find a really nice home in Chimchu decks. It's going to be a staple, and it's an uncommon, which means a lot of people should be able to pull this from packs pretty easily to make a Chimchu deck work. But outside of that, this card is not going to see play. It's not going to see play in the current meta until Kindred becomes more of a staple and we start seeing a lot of these family decks come to light and come to fruition of refinement and just some really big turns is what I'm planning on seeing out of Chimchu. Celestian Protector. So it's a Chimchu card. Awesome, more Chimchu. Lunar, corner of 1, reduced damage received by corner 1, corner 2 is healing. This card is really good. When you think of the Lunar, the past wall they have is Yukona Oracle. Is it Yukona Oracle? The X333? Where it's, okay, first turn you lay it, you don't get anything from it. Afterwards, it's one of the best walls, but like I said, it's one that you don't get immediate effect from. Just like Bubblefish, Wall of Bones, Monster's Defender, all that stuff, you get immediate defense from it, which is what you need. Whereas the Yukona one, you lay it, you don't get defense. That's their one turn to just burst you down, and that's a really big sign to say, okay, I need to do this now, or I'm not going to do anything for the next 3 turns until I remove it. As opposed to, like, someone lays, let's just go back to Dolo. Someone lays Colossi Ritual Site, Draga Scorcher. Leading into the next turn, you already know, okay, if I don't remove this, I'm going to take 9 damage. plus, you know, a Fire Bat for 8 and a Rock Rager for, or a Magma Spitter or something like that for another 9. Like, that's the damage that's going to come out of you. You lay Icona Oracle on that turn, it's still going to go through. Like, you're still going to take a lot of this potential damage where you're just like, crap, this is something I should have laid 2 or 3 turns ago. Like, something like that, where you're just really in trouble. Where this one, this now brings that damage wall that Astral desperately needed to the immediate attention. So I think this card is actually going to see some play. I think it's going to see a lot of play even outside of Chimchu, just because of, hey, this is that immediate defense that Astral desperately needed. And then afterwards it gives you 2 heals. Like, it gives you a minor heal, which could trigger several other things. Like, hey, you've been healed this turn. It could trigger Phase Shift on its next turn. It could trigger a bunch of other things where it's like, if you've been healed this turn, you get an extra benefit from it. It's a Lunar card. Lunar's a very defensive aspect. Goes on the bottom after 2 corners, so it's really easy to manipulate with your discard pile. I think this card is going to see a lot of play. I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. I mean, right now in a lot of decks you don't see a whole lot of Icona Oracles, especially even in the current Cassini and Selene, because all their buffs they want to bring back with Reality Rift are their towers, are spectral guides, are stuff that like has, you know, benefit to keep drawing, to keep damage, because you have enough healing. But in a Chimchu deck, laying this to make sure you don't die when you're trying to build up a big heavy turn is going to be nuts. It's going to be really good for them to hold off on that one turn, and I really hope to see a lot of potential from this to make it so that Astral can become more of that tempo-based deck where they don't get overrun, where they don't need to consistently heal for 7 and all this stuff, and just like they can play more defensively in a more longer game like they do, but not just rely on healing. They can lay this down, block a lot of heavy damage, block a lot of the Dolo turns. So I think this card is going to see a lot of play, even outside of Chimchu. Mind you, it is a Chimchu card, so you can lay it, get the benefits from it, get the healing from your Chimchu cards if Lunar's on top, all this fun stuff. But just having a card finally for Astral where it immediate damage prevention is what it desperately needed, even if it's just for 1 turn. So you could lay this and the Icona Oracle and have 4 turns of just like sitting behind the Great Wall of China and be like, oh, I'm so at peace, I can do all this stuff, get my card draws going, get my stuff rekindled if I only have 1 or 2 cards. Mind you, you do need Lunar Mastery, but I mean, if you're playing Lunar Mastery, you're probably playing more of a defensive deck. I think even Cassini is Lunar Mastery, so this could be really good if you want to play her and then discard cards to deal 3 damage. Like, there's a lot of ways to go around that, and I think this card is going to see a lot of play. But like I said, I don't think it's going to see a lot of play in the current meta. Depending on how the deck goes, I don't see this being a big game changer. It's just one of those where it's like they finally have defense. They finally have a way to mitigate damage that you can foresee coming on the next turn, which is really what Astral needed as opposed to all the other alignments already having. So I think this is a really good card for them to have. Really solid card. You're going to see a lot of this in the future, and I'm really happy about it. Telestian Priest. This is the card I was talking about. This is the card I was talking about with the one of everything. 2 or 1 of everything. Goes really well with the temple that I just reviewed. Let's see here. Want to get the names right. Wow, where is it? Why am I not looking at all this stuff? Come on, you were just there. Sorry for the delay, folks. Suntop Gallery. With Suntop Gallery, this turns into a 3 healing, 2 damage, draw 2 cards, 4/1. If Lunar's, if Lunar's on bottom, it's a Chimchu card. So you're going to want to draw it with the one Beast card that I just reviewed, Guard Howler. So think of it this way: Guard Howler, 2 healing. If you draw this card, if it's a Chimchu, you get an additional action. You then play this card for Gravity. You get 3 healing, 2 damage. You draw 2 more cards. You get an additional action because it was a Chimchu card, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, I don't think so. No, you just get the benefit. You don't get the additional action. Sorry, my bad. I do apologize. But, like, that's how good these Chimchu cards are going to be for just getting you 2 card draws after this stuff, getting all these additional actions. I think even with the old buff one, the, what was it, the Lookout Tower or something like that, where it's all your damage and healing is increased by 2 and 2 for the next 2 turns, having this healer for 4, 3 damage to your opponent, draw a card, that's going to be nuts. Like, this card it's so minor and so minuscule, but it does everything. It does everything. This card is going to see so much play. I think this is going to be... I mean, for Gravity healing, like I said, Gravity's already one that you're going to want to splash into a lot of other decks. It's probably one of the better ones of the 3 to splash in. Having a card that does all this stuff, I haven't really done this, but I want to give this a 5-star card. I want to say this is going to be one that you splash in almost every Astral deck. It's going to be one that you probably even want to splash into a lot of other alignment decks just because of how much this one card gives you. It's not even a dead card when you draw it, because when you lay it, you get small benefits, minor benefits, and you get to draw a card. It's a really good card to use against Mountain Fort, where the 1 damage will tick it forward. It's really good against the new... I haven't reviewed Nature yet, but I know it's a Nature card that essentially has Clunky Corner defenses, where you 1 damage, rotate him. And if that's how this game is going to go with Clunky Corner defenses, 1 damage is going to be a lot beneficial to get around those defenses than, say, like 6 damage, and only have like 3 go through. Like, you want the minimal damage to make these things rotate so your big damages can go through and you get the full benefit of them. Drawing a card. So this card doesn't even take up a card slot. You lay it, you get to draw a card. It's like a recycle while you get this benefit. It's such a good card. So many things are going right about this thing. And it's a defend card, so it doesn't even like get canceled out by Subjugator or get canceled out by Exterior Defender, which is more common than the Chimchu one, which is cancels out defense. You don't see it like that one in almost any deck. So that's going to make this really good. But yeah, I give this a 5-star rating because this, I mean, it is a Chimchu. It's good. It's going to get the benefit from a lot of the Chimchu cards, but it's a solid card that gives you so much for 1 card that this is going to be a 3 of in almost every Astral deck. You're going to want to run this in almost any Astral deck. And it's gravity. A lot of cards in there require you to have gravity on top to do a lot of the fun things. At least a lot of the solar cards, I believe, require you to have gravity. I think Mirror Beast is, if gravity's on top, you return it to your hand. So like doing this and then Mirror Beast, which is seen in a lot of Astral decks, could be really fun and really potential. Still draws you a card, so you don't even really lose that action. It's what, in my opinion, one of the best cards that Astral put out. Even though it does like 2 and 1 and 1, because it's so much. It's such a good card. It's such a good card, and I think this is a 5-star because you're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see this thing splashed into everything. So yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's really good. All right. Next one we have is Treetop Trading Post. Clunky Corner for 3. Location. Burn. So obviously, can't be brought back. That's fine. It's completely fine. When you play a Chimchu card, store the last discarded action card under this card. Defendability. Move stored cards to your hand. Okay, so the way I'm reading this, when you play a Chimchu card, so you play it on the field, then your last discarded action card gets moved under here, and then that Chimchu card you played goes on top. As far as what I'm reading, because that's how the game kind of mechanics work. When you play a card, it doesn't go in the graveyard until its effect resolved, or until the buff, everything was resolved. So thinking about it that way, you don't necessarily get the cards that you play right back under. It doesn't store the attack card you played. It stores the last discarded action card under this card. So this card easily brings back cards like Pathfinder, brings back cards, I mean, even if it could bring back the Chimchu Militant, it could bring back Guard Snail, it could bring back Shapeshifter, cards that draw you cards. Heck, even with the new Umbron card, like I said, you reveal the card, the one that's the Baby Sun Beacon that Dr. Attila's quoted. You can draw that card, discard that card to put that on top, or to deal 4 damage, and then your next... Well, no, actually that wouldn't work, because that card then goes on top. Never mind, scratch that. I'm talking way faster than my brain is manipulating, because the card, the Umbron one, would go on top after the discarded one, so you wouldn't even get that back. So, sorry about that. Completely disregard everything I just said. But, I mean, still, moving 3... action card, or moving cards back from your discard pile, storing it onto this one, and then moving them back to your hand. It's not like back to your deck. It's not that. It's back to your hand. Up to 3 of them. So like I said, in this Chimchu game that you're going to be playing, where you're going to be playing 5 or 6 things a turn, having this out on that turn where you're about to do your Chimchu things, getting all those additional actions, doing this, making sure you consistently have like 2 actions, using this ability to bring 3 of those Chimchu cards back to your hand, guess what? You're going to... Well, you can't lay the same cards a turn. Scratch that. You're going to have another good turn after that where you're going to be doing all this stuff. You basically played all the cards from your hand, put them back in, got them back to your hand, and then your turn's over so that next turn you can do 5 damage. You can do all this other stuff that you did before. So it's... Okay, after talking about this through, I need to really start slowing down my voice and catching up with my head as I'm talking about this stuff. Maybe it's just I'm so excited about these cards. That's what's happening. But I really do think this card is going to see a really good place in Chimchu decks. It's probably going to be a 2 of, not necessarily a 3, but a 2 of. But I mean, just that ability to like lay several cards in a turn, store this up to 3, maybe even on the turn you lay it. I don't know how many additional actions you can get after playing this card, which doesn't give you additional actions. I don't know with the Chimchu cards. Next turn, even 2 turns after, returning 3 stored cards to your hand that are not burn, obviously. just so you can play them again, just so you can get the additional actions, just so you can draw the cards, just so you can do all this other stuff that you have planned for. And what Astral is very good at is planning your turns several turns in advance, making sure everything works together. This card, I want to say, like I said, is a 4-star card. It's going to be really good in Chimchu decks. It unfortunately does not have a place in the current meta right now. There's no place where this fits in properly into any of the decks, because a lot of the Chimchu cards that you're going to want to lay will have burn, which then cuts off the top card of your discard pile with the action card. So like if you lay Chimchu Infiltrator, you get the 1 card back. After that, this one's burned, so you don't even get that card back, so it kind of cuts it off. It stops the delay of the cycle. So in the future, this is going to have a really good deck in Chimchu. It's going to make it very cyclical, very bursty damage, which is what like I said, what I've been seeing from all these Chimchu cards is just very big burst turns, as opposed to like 1 or 2 cards a turn, draw, 1 or 2 cards a turn, go, that all the other Astral decks have been playing-wise with Cassini, Cellini, all this other stuff. So in the future, I think this is going to be an amazing card. This is going to be great. They obviously changed all the stuff with burn, so you can't store burn cards, all this other stuff like that. Or even bring back from the discard pile. It doesn't catch anything. So burn is now a lot more potent than it was, but this is still going to see a lot of gameplay in the future. I just don't think it's going to have its spot right now. We're going to have to find a spot for it, as opposed to we already found a spot for it. But as soon as we do, this card is going to have a major impact on the game, and I love that. I love the fact that this card is going to be one of those big game changers that Astral really wants to play. All right, Vortex Slayer. Chimchu card, awesome. Remove 1 elemental buff from the recipient. If your last discarded card is Gravity, you draw 2 cards. Awesome. Let's go back. Now that we've reviewed a lot of these cards, we're almost near the end. I think it's V, so I hope so. This is all alphabetical order. With the Suntop Gallery or the Treetop Gallery or whatever, this will draw you 3 cards if Gravity's on top, which is nuts. 3 cards for 1. Elemental, I think, is one of the 3 or 4 families that's spread out within a lot of the alignments. I know there's Elemental in Nature, there's Elemental in Storm, there's Elemental in Mountain, there's Elemental in Astral. I'm not sure about Dread or Tech. Those ones are kind of like iffy on, because I think Dread is more like Undead, more Umbron, more stuff like that, and Tech is obviously more robots, machines. So I don't know how many Elementals they have in there, per se, but if you think about those 4 colors that I just listed, and you look at any of the national deck lists, those are the 4 colors outside of Sicario that you're going to see almost everywhere. You're going to see a lot of Nature, you're going to see a lot of Mountain, you're going to see a lot of Astral, you're going to see a lot of even Storm. Storm is starting to come to the rise, I feel. I think Storm has a really good potent in this new set. Where Elemental buffs, this one could just be really good. It could be maybe maybe even just a run of 2 of, and you don't even necessarily run it to remove the buff. You run it as a Chimchu card that... Oh no, that's right. With the Treetop, Lunar has to be on top. So maybe you run it with the Reality Twister, so that it counts as both Gravity and Lunar. So then this card just counts as draw 3 cards. But even 1 card that draws you 2 cards, I think that's pretty fine. It helps you cycle through your deck really well. It's kind of like one of those filler cards. If you want to think about it in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, it's a pot of greed. Put it that way: 1 card to draw 2 cards. It really cycles through your deck, really helps you draw, even if you don't get to remove a buff. Make sure Gravity's on top, draw 2 cards. So you Pathfinder something, you draw 2 cards. You Chimchu Infiltrator something, you draw 2 cards. You Spectral Guide, have it go off, you draw 2 cards, lay this, draw 2 more cards. That's 4 cards with 2 of those cards. That is so much hand refill, which is just nuts. And in any card game, I'll say this several times over, any card game I have ever played, I'm ever going to play, will ever be made, card draw is so potent, which is why everyone hates Dolo, because Dolo's ability is literally draw cards. Everyone hates Trianu, because Trianu, you draw cards. Like, drawing cards, getting a hand size over your opponent is just nuts. It means you get to do more things than them, which is what wins you games, is being able to do more things. So this card, it's going to see a lot of play. This card is probably up in the 4.5 range. Obviously, you need to manipulate it with Gravity, which is fine, but even if you don't get to remove an Elemental buff, you get to draw 2 cards with 1 card. It's a slot filler that, if you really want to think about it, if you build a 30-card deck with 35, with combos and action cards, you can add 2 of these and essentially consider your deck be a 33-card deck. Because these cards are not in there to have an effect on the game. These cards are in there to make sure you draw your other cards. And if you're thinking about it like that, you want to build. I mean, I've talked to several players that play card games. If they could have like a 10 card deck, they would, because those 10 cards are all you need to win games. Those 10 cards are the only ones that you ever want to keep drawing and playing and kill your opponent really fast, which means the other 20 cards could just be card draw to get to those 10 cards. So having a card like this that just you play one to draw two, that's, you know, a 1 for 2 advantage on your side. Every time you even draw this card, you get to play it again to draw 2 more cards. Like, it's so good. It's ridiculous how important card draw is. That, like, if it wasn't for the fact, well, I mean, the gravity is not even that hard, but obviously this deck is only good in Astral. You can't put it in all the other decks to make it, you know, be a really potent card throughout the entire stuff. So I think Astral got a really solid card here. But yeah, this is going to see a lot of play. Like, it's so close to being a 5-star card for me that it's only a 4.5. If 5-star would be, you know, if it removed an elemental, it consistently did all this amazing stuff. It is a Chimchu card, so you could get massive benefits from it, but the Chimchus, a lot of the buffs that you get from Chimchu make you kind of want to have a different alignment on top, so I honestly think Reality Twister is going to see a lot more play. I'm really happy that card is coming back, because I think that was an underrated card that a lot of people didn't play that had so much potential. So I think having this in a Chimchu deck could be ridiculous. It's going to be broken. If you're running a Chimchu deck, you're going to want it to run at least maybe even 3 copies, because that's how potent card draw is. Even if you're not running a Chimchu deck, this card could be a 2 or 3 copy in a deck just to keep drawing you cards, keep really filling your hands. Having gravity on top is not that difficult to do. Especially, it's not like if it's a Chimchu on top, you do this. It's not like very limited. It's so broad in the Astral spectrum that this card it's a phenomenal card that, in my opinion, Astral didn't really need because of how much card draw they already have, but they got anyway, which just means that Astral's going to keep growing. It's going to keep getting better and better and better than kind of being already at the top and just kind of waiting for everyone to catch up. This deck is at the top, in my opinion, and it's just going to keep going up because of this card. Like, card draw, hands down, one of the best things in the game. Everyone's going to run it. I'm surprised people aren't running Ashwood Diva more often and stuff like that. Like, just how potent card draw is. All right, next card. On to the next one. Wandering Starformer. 4 damage. If your last discarded card is solar, draw a card. Can we just do this real quick? This is a solar card. So mind you play this with gravity on top, whatever you want to do. Draw 3 cards. Move a buff. Cool. Next one. 4 damage. If your last discarded card is solar, draw a card. These 2 cards, literally, if you draw in like back-to-back, play them back-to-back, you draw 3 cards for these 2, and you get 4 damage out of it, and you could potentially remove an elemental buff. Like, just these 2 new cards back-to-back without even me searching through that. That is ridiculous card synergy. That is so good. 4 damage from an attack is already better than 3. That's fine. There's a lot of cards with, like, if they're not 5 damage, you take 1 damage away and you give it a special benefit. You give something like the Sneaky Creeble is 4 damage, but it bypasses all damage reduction. There is the Shadow Unaligned that's 4 damage, but you get to manipulate your opponent's hand, have them remove an item or an action card of a certain alignment. There is the Flame Chained one for Mountain, 4 damage, but you get to rotate an opponent's buff 1 step forward. Like, having that winnable 1 damage, but to get a massive effect on the board or the game is really good. I'm surprised that those cards actually aren't played more, but then in aggressive style, you really don't care about your opponent. You want them just dead as dead, and 1 point could mean game win or game lose. But this one, I mean, 4 damage if it's solar, draw a card. This could be really good. This, I mean, well, it is really good, but it could be even better. However, like I said, I don't know how potent this could be in other decks. Well, like, not in other decks, but stuff like that, where every single other one of these cards from all the other alignments do something without you having to have your other alignment to that color in the deck. The Flame Chain one is just 4 damage, do whatever. The unaligned ones do 4 damage, do whatever. This one requires you to basically play Astral to get that card draw effect, so it's not going to be seen outside Astral. Putting that out there plain and simple right now. 4 damage to draw a card. There are a lot of cards in Astral already that draw you cards. We just saw the Chimchu one that draws you 2. We saw the other one, 2 healing, 1 damage, draw you a card. We already have Anti-Gravity Snail. We already have Shapeshifter. We already have, you know, several things that just draw you cards as it is. So maybe this card just being 4 damage to draw you a card maybe the card draw doesn't really boost this up to where we want it to be. Especially if it requires us to have solar. So it requires us, obviously, to be playing the very methodical way, which Astral does. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's how Astral plays it, which is one of the things that you have to line up for a lot of these cards. You have to stars align. The whole way the alignment works is just awesome thematically. It's amazing. But this, in all honesty, I want to say is just going to be a 3-star card. I want to say it's a 3-star card. I mean, essentially, if you think about it this way, people already play Anti-Gravity Snail. People already play that to draw a card. If it's not gravity, you deal 4 damage. This card is Anti-Gravity Snail. It's a gravity card. It's an attack card. 4 damage right off the bat, and you get to draw a card if Solar's on the top. So you don't even really get the card draw. You just get the damage. So like comparing those two, Anti-Gravity Snail is now a beast, which means it could be brought back with beast cards, which means it could be beneficial to other beast families. So like comparing it that way, this card is, I mean, it's a solid baseline card. It's probably a 3-star card. It doesn't have a family alignment. I mean, maybe it could have been a spirit or anything like that. Give Astral something. Obviously, it's a star. It's supposed to be a constellation and whatnot. But give it a family. We love these new cards. We love the family set. That's what we want from these new cards. But it doesn't have a family, so it can't benefit from all the new family cards. And it's basically Anti-Gravity Snail, in a sense where it's both attack, both gravity cards. It's Anti-Gravity Snail, from what I've seen, is almost always 4 damage, and it draws you a card. This one has to be solar on top, draws you a card. So it's like it's the conditional between whether you really want the card draw or whether you really want the 2 damage is what this card really replaces it for. So it's a 3-star card in my mind. For draft, it's going to see a lot of cards. This card is going to be really good in draft. It's going to be like a 5-star card in draft, in my opinion. In constructed, it's not going to see a whole lot of change. Like I said, the only card people change out for are Anti-Gravity Snails. You never know. Maybe Solar is really potent for you to keep laying and then do this to draw the card. But Anti-Gravity Snail is a consistent card draw, where card draw, I think, is more important than some damage in a lot of these decks, especially in the past ones where you would draw cards. You want to draw the defend cards to make your towers rotate and deal damage and all this other stuff. So like it has its ups and downs, but in my opinion, I really still think that Anti-Gravity Snail is slightly above this card in what it does for Astral as a whole, as opposed to this one where if you really want that card draw, you need to have the top card of your discard pile specific, otherwise it's just 4 damage. Otherwise it's just a Chimchu Infiltrator for 1 less damage. That's it. Or not Infiltrator, Militant. Sorry. Chimchu Militant for 5 damage. So like that's why I'm giving this a 3-star rating. It's a solid card. We already have a card exactly like it, like minuscule differences that's already being run, that in my opinion is like a slightly downgrade because this one pushes more for damage, whereas the other one guarantees you a card draw. That's where I'm coming from. That's where I'm seeing these come from. All right, now we're on to the weapons, guys. We're on to the weapons, then we're going to combos after this. So I hope that was a good understanding of my action cards. I hope you guys related. I think I only gave like 3 5-star ratings, which is good because there shouldn't be more than like 2 or 3 in a set. Otherwise, that set is broken, and that's what's going to be the more dominant one in Kindred. So I'm really happy that I didn't give a whole lot of massively outbroken ones. And it's good to see some varying stuff in a lot of these cards. All right, Crescent Scepter, the lunar weapon. So it's not a mastery, so it only has 1 slot. So I understand that. Attack ability, 2 damage. Increase this by 1 if your last discarded card is a beast, and move it to the bottom of your discard pile. I think this is going to be a really good card. We already saw, I think from the past, the 2 lunar cards that revolved around beasts were, the beast defense or the rotate your beast cards by 1. Heal for however many beast cards there are. Now that Anti-Gravity Snail is now a beast, that could be great. We have Dawn Wanderer, which is a beast. You can put it in your discard pile after it runs out, put it on the bottom, and deal 3 damage. Like, I think that this one is going to be run in a lot of beast decks, and beast decks are now that I've said before, are spread out between a lot of the alignments. Having this card work for the beast family the way it does, you're going to see this in blue. You're probably going to see this in... It's really unfortunate. You're probably not going to see it in green as much because green is probably going to want to run beast with Farapang, and Farapang can't run weapons, so this is not even viable. But they already have access to Lunar, so it's not that much of a detriment to them. But yeah, Storm is probably going to see this a lot. You might even just see this run in the Astral deck of beasts, just because you can recycle or kind of manipulate the top card of your deck with your beasts, so that you can, I don't know, work it with the Chimchu one, where you can put the beasts on top, store some cards. There's like really weird ways of looking at this card, But I think this card has a lot of potential in beasts. Otherwise, it's just 2 damage. 2 damage from an ability is meh. We've already discussed that on hero powers. Hero powers that just deal 2 damage is very minuscule. You want something that does at least 3 or more, unless it gets a benefit from it. And I think this one can be seen really good in beasts. I want to give this weapon. I want to give this weapon a 3-star rating as of right now. I haven't gone too much into the Storm's Beast. I haven't gone too much into the Nature's Beasts yet. Like I said, Nature I'm not even really going to consider that much because I think that the solid green cards are going to run more Insect, I want to say. You could run a lot of Beasts in Nature. For all I know, there could be some really good staple Beast cards where running this card could just be 3 damage after all the Beasts that you put on top. I mean, mind you, it only puts it to the bottom of the discard pile. So, like, it doesn't even go back in your deck, which would just be ridiculously broken. I could have taken like 1 damage, move the top card of your discard pile to Beast to the bottom of your deck. That would have been an amazing weapon. That would have put this in a different league of its own, just to cycle through your Beast cards like that. But there's already ways to cycle through your Beast cards with Spirit Walk and all that other stuff, so it's kind of fine. However, like, just from, like I said, I have looked at some of these weapons. Running, if you want to play the really long game, and I don't know how well Tech does, playing this card with Fluximo to have the top card of your Beast go to your bottom of your discard pile. Then next turn, lay Fluximo to put the bottom of your discard pile, I think either back into your deck or back into your hand, could just make you in a slow turn rotate through your Beast cards. Like, you only run Fluximo just for its ability. Mind you, it has burn, so you obviously can't get it back. But this card will always make it so the bottom of your discard pile is never a burn card. It's always the Beast card that you just played. So, like, it could be one of those, like, you really want certain cards back, you want all this stuff, but it makes it so that Fluximo never runs out, as opposed to, mind you, it does affect your opponent, but the moment your opponent's bottom discard pile becomes burned, Fluximo is only good to you. So, like, in comparison, if you work these 2 weapons in a really, really slow game, have really good synergies with each other, but the way the meta was right previously, it's very aggressive, very kill you really fast, that you might not even have time to spend half of 2 turns to get 1 card back. Mind you, then again, that's what the new mythical hero for Solar and Dread does. It takes 2 turns to get a card in your discard pile back to your hand. You could do the same thing with these 2 weapons. So I think it could be very interesting. Mind you, it has to do with Beasts, so it's not any card. But, I mean, that's how I'm seeing this card kind of be in a very synergistic way, that what I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. But, I mean, I don't know how much this is going to see outside of decks without Beasts. It's going to almost see nothing. If you want Lunar Mastery, just run the Lunar Mastery weapon over this one. It's Mastery, so it doesn't get removed with the new cards. The new, I think it's like a Oppressor. But yeah, I mean, in a Beast deck, this could be fun. It could be 3 damage that you just really need if your attack cards, or depending on how defensive Beast cards are. There could be a lot of Beast cards that are more healing, and you use the healing and then put it on the bottom of your discard pile to do damage. Mind you, it's also graveyard manipulation for Astral, where you could make it so the top of your discard pile is not, Solar Beast, it's a Gravity or something like that. It's really hard to see how this card is going to play out without testing it a bunch of times, putting it on the right deck. But in my opinion, it's going to get maybe even a 2.5 to 3-star rating. It's a solid weapon. 2 damage is not that good. Really good graveyard manipulation with a Beast deck. Astral needs that to run a lot of their stuff. I mean, you could run Beast with a few Chimchu cards. Get the Beasts out of there, put Chimchu back on top, have all that super fun stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how this all works. It all depends, because, I mean, this doesn't even use Lunar Mastery, so you can't even use the Guard Howler and then use this unless your hero already has Lunar Mastery. In a sense, you're only running this weapon for the ability. So, like, it's one of those things that it's a toss-up. It's not as potent as I would like to be, because it only goes to the bottom of your discard pile, not to your deck, for an increased damage. It has to be run with Beast, otherwise essentially it just reads attack ability, deal 2 damage. So this is one of those kind of weaker weapons, I feel, but splashed into the right deck, it could be detrimental, it could be huge. So here's hoping. Here's hoping that, like, Storm does something ridiculous with Beasts that get them to the bottom of their deck and just has a lot of fun with it. I'm crossing my fingers hoping to see it. Alright, their Solar weapon. So now, from what I understand, all the alignments are going to have 2 normal weapons with 1 weapon slot and 1 superior weapon with 2 weapon slots. So there is actually a superior weapon for each alignment. And Solar obviously is going to be the Astral one. So it takes up 2 weapon slots. Superior Solar, however, attack ability 2 damage, gain 1 additional action if you have 10 or less health. this kind of goes in the same aspect where I was talking about with that with the Hail Fury Berserker. The way the game is more leaning towards, you never really want to be below like 12 or even 14 health because that's where the kill shot range is. So being below 10 and not even have this really be a defensive card makes this not be that good. I mean, yes, you get an additional action so you can heal if you're less than 10, but unless that happens, this is essentially a weapon that just reads attack ability 2 damage. I don't know. Maybe you're building a Morgok deck where like all you do is set yourself between like 5 and 10 health, and you just try not to die in there, and you get all this crazy stuff going. But obviously, until your deck works, you get down to 10 health, you're going to be doing nothing but drawing and building up to that time. So like essentially, this is you equip one more item slot to take over for the Solar's superior solar weapon. Attack ability, deal 2 damage. You're never going to want to waste an attack ability that does nothing when you could be doing card draw, could be doing all this other stuff to deal 2 damage when you could be dealing 4 damage, draw a card, when you could be dealing 1 damage, 2 healing, draw a card, like that kind of stuff with solar. Like it's just one of those things where this weapon I really don't think is going to hit home until far in the future when we can actually see a viable reason to stay at 10 or less health without dying the next turn. I just don't see it. I think this weapon for right now is probably going to get the same standing that Hail Fury Berserker is, and it's going to be a 1-star weapon. This is not going to see play in almost any deck. I mean, when you're comparing it, there's not even other good Astral weapons like the other 4 sets because Astral and Nature weapons didn't get toy releases, so you don't have those other kind of unique ability weapons to compare them to as opposed to the other ones. This is just the only weapon you compare this to is the 1 item equip slot Mastery Solar. So for a 1 item equip slot, you can deal 2 damage. Okay, Cassini can discard a card, manipulate her top card of her discard pile to deal 3, and that's her hero ability. This weapon is just not good right now. Like I said, I'm hoping later in the series when a lot of these cards get rotated out, we're not seeing big bursts for 5 damage, 6 damage cards, even 7 damage cards. You start seeing more of a cyclical burn where you can live at like 8 or 9 health for 2 turns. You can be okay without being fear of dying and utilize some of this stuff. And then again, even if once we do get to their point, this doesn't do anything until really late in the game. It'll give you Solar Mastery. Cool, you have Solar Mastery, but so does that other weapon. This does, it gives you an additional action once you're below health, so then you can compare it to kind of what Flynamo did. But Flynamo also healed you, gave you an initial action without stat restrictions. And you didn't even have to be below 10 health, which is why that card got banned. Like, that was just broken. But, like, the thing that makes this weapon so bad is the 10 health. Is you have to be 10 or less health, which is never going to benefit you. You're never going to benefit from just dealing an extra 2 damage from being that low. And then, like, you need to heal. So it's like, okay, cool, I got this low, I'm within death range. I'm going to poke you in the eye and then Dusk Feeder myself for 7 and then do something else and get myself back up. It's like 2 damage. Okay. We already decided, yeah, 2 damage is good for like cyclical poking through damage like Mountain Fort and stuff where you just want stuff to rotate. But 2 damage isn't going to be worth it to use an action half your turn unless you're almost dead. That's my view on this card. It's not a good weapon. I really hope that in like the next year or two when sets rotate out, when 10 or less health becomes viable and you won't die and there's stuff like, if you're at 10 or less health, you can't take more than 4 or 5 damage from an action card or something like that, where it becomes a little more viable to actually drop down that low and survive for a turn or two to actually get a benefit from this. But for right now, it's not good. It's not a good weapon. Gravity. Gravity's Shard of Gravis. Defendability, draw 2 cards. All other heroes draw 1 card face up. This card is going to see a lot of play, not just because Gravity is going to be an amazing one to splice into a lot of decks, like I've been saying, but because it's essentially you get the ability of Zuna, but it's better than Zuna because they have to reveal it to you. They reveal what card they drew while you draw 2 cards. Astral's always been really good at drawing cards. They have Spectral Guide, they have Chimchu Infiltrator, which draws you cards, they have oh god, what's other cards that they use for drawing? I mean, they have so many card draws for drawing. They have Anti-Gravity Stand, which draws you a card face up. Like just stuff like that makes you draw. This one just it's such a universal benefit that putting it into any deck, which is what Gravity wants, is wants to splash into all the other stuff, to draw 2 cards. Like if you need card draw, this is a great weapon. True cards, yes, your opponent draws 1 too, but A, you get to find out what it is, so you can A, bring your notebook with you and write down, okay, well they just drew a Crystal Leech, or they just drew a Thunderslug, so I can't really, well, lay more buffs into that stuff, gotta prepare. But then you draw 2 cards. And, like, think about it this way. Dolo draws you 2 cards, you take 3 health. You're fine with 3 health. Zuna drew 2 cards, they drew 1. You played Zuna. Triana drew you 2 cards, they took 3 healing. That was fine. I mean, there was even a lot of ways to play around that stuff. This is just going to be a really good weapon. I think this is like I think this is going to be a 5-star weapon. Honestly, this is a 5-star weapon. Just A, because of how good Gravity is for splashing into every single other aspect, especially with these new Kindred cards. B, it's card draw, which is what every deck needs. Every deck is going to need card draw. It only takes up 1 weapon slot, so you can equip other weapons to it. It doesn't have burn like some of the other, like the minuscule weapons do, so you can bring this back with action cards. And there's just, you get so much from this. Just because of how good Gravity is alone, to splash into other decks, you're going to want to run this in a lot of decks to splash Gravity and to run cards that just give you card draw. Maybe all you do is run this weapon just for the card draw. Maybe you're a deck that's running really slow, but you need card draw, so you just run this weapon and get card draw. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you're running this weapon. There's even ways to go around it. If you put this in nature, you almost want your opponent to run or have a large size hand so that you can play cards like Infected Veg from the last set, where it's like you deal damage to your opponent equal to their card's hand size. They run Ashwood Diva, which is you draw 3, they draw 2. Like you can easily run this into nature and have your opponent draw a bunch of cards and just deal damage based on their hand size. And then there's the new card, the unaligned card, where if they have more than 8, shuffle them back and they draw 5 cards. Like there's easy ways to get around this, where if you just make your opponent draw cards, yes, they'll do a bunch of actions, they can do stuff like that, but you're getting 2 cards on them over 1. This is just a really solid weapon that we're going to see a lot of, and I think Shard of Gravis is going to be the most popular weapon put into decks or just run in general. And 5-star. 5-star. This is a 5-star weapon. I'm not sure how many weapons I'm going to give 5 stars to, but I think this one is going to be amazing. This one is going to be so commonly seen that this is going to be the reason that Oppressor is put into almost every single sideboard, even a main deck, just to remove the weapon that's not Superior Mastery. It's a solid card. I'm really happy about it. All right, on to the combos. 1 second, guys. I'm going to get a drink because my mouth is getting a little bit dry. All right, all good, all good. Antimatter Field. 2 Gravity and a Solar. Combo buff. All right, 5 damage to all other heroes when this enters play. As this enters play, all heroes flip their decks upside down. Bottom card up. When this leaves play, flip them back again. Okay, this could just be a really fun combo to play. I mean, mind you, with cards like Gravity Well, you put cards from the top of or you get to look at the bottom 4 cards of your deck. In Astral alone, you will always know what the top card of your deck is, because it's not like your deck gets flipped over and then you have to turn all the cards around. No, your deck is just flipped up, so everyone knows what your top card is. Everyone knows what everyone's top card is. So having that advantage to just say, hey, I'll Gravity Snail now that I know it's not Gravity, draw this. Or I'll Shapeshifter. I know a combo's coming up, so I'll get the 10 benefit from it. Like, this one has a really good place in Astral alone. Just A, because of the knowledge that it's like, hey, everyone knows what we're drawing, everyone knows what's coming up. If I see a Crystal Leech on top of his or his next turn, and he just really wants it, I'm like, he's probably going to waste his turn or do 1 action and draw that card, and then next turn I got to watch out for these buffs. So, like, Astral's already playing a very methodical way of manipulating the board, manipulating your opponent's thought process of trying to figure out how to play around stuff, just planning their turns like 3 steps in advance to make it happen that way. That Antimatter Field, I actually think, is like a 4.5 star combo, just based on the fact that, like, not only does it deal 5 damage, but it comes with so much knowledge, which is what I gave that other buff for, that you get a lot of knowledge, which is what Astral wants. I've said this before. I've tried introducing a lot of my friends to this game, and the way I literally said it is, when you're playing Astral, at times it feels like you're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Because you have to manipulate the board, you have to manipulate your graveyard, the top card of your deck, so much stuff that you have to plan your turns out almost 3 or 4 turns in advance and get everything working, get all the gears going, where everyone else is just, okay, I'll draw 2 cards, deal 5 damage to you, I'll lay a buff, go, do all this like very basic stuff. So having Astral get knowledge, which is what Astral really wants, is really weird in a card game where you want knowledge as opposed to just damage and healing and all that stuff, so that you can play around stuff, so you can make sure your turns go off in a very big way, like your machine is grinding very well. That literally being able to see your opponent's consistent top card. So they'll draw one, then they'll draw another one, and you get to see both of those cards. That's fine. You get to see both of them, they get to see both of yours. But they have their own playstyle where it's like, oh yeah, I have 5 damage, I have all this stuff. And you're like, okay, well, he's drawing buff removal. I won't lay buff, I know he has a crystal in play. Like, you're going to come prepared with your notebook, and they're not. And you're going to be able to write down every card they draw, and they're not going to be prepared for that because they were not expecting this. That I think this is just going to be a really fun card. And it's a buff that's consistent, so it stays out until they remove it. Which means that if they just really don't want you to keep knowing what they have on top, they're going to waste buff removal on this card after just 5 damage. And then you get to lay all your other fun buffs, like Mageship. I mean, heck, this can even bring back in Reality Rift. It'll deal 5 damage and flip your deck back over. It's just one of those weird, fun things that literally could just make this a really interesting game. And like I said before, if you, for some reason, are running that Lunar Weapon with Fluximo, you flip your deck over, and the few turns, you have all those beast cards now back on top. And you can keep redoing it again to put them back on bottom, so that when they remove this buff, all those beast cards you put back on top are now on the top of your deck. So you get to do this all again. Like, there's a lot of really fun ways to play Astral now, and I'm really happy about that it's not just straightforward. We only had 2 sets to work with, so it's either this deck or nothing, stuff like that. That I'm really happy, and I kind of want to build a deck like this where it's just, you mess with your opponent's mind. You're just like, why are we playing this game? You're breaking all the rules of reality and the game. Like, I was planning on playing a straightforward game, and right now you're juggling 3 chainsaws, and I'm sitting here holding, like, a magic 8-ball going, am I going to survive? I'm going to try again later. All right, guys, we'll play this weird game. Like, I love Astral, and I love the way this is turning out, and I'm really happy about this buff. I think this is like a 4.5. It's definitely not going to take the place of a lot of the other combos they have, because a lot of stuff that Astral does right now is just massive damage. They have 3 or 4 combos that deal anywhere between like 8 and 16 damage, and that just is massive burst damage. Like I said, gets you in that 14 damage range where you're in lethal shot all the time. This card is just going to be a really fun card to play, help you really knowledgeably to prepare your Chimchu actions as you go off in like 4 or 5 turns. It's just a really fun combo that I feel like everyone should play once just to see what it does and have fun with the game. When it comes to competitively, I really hope it actually finds a spot, because I think being able to see the top card of everyone's deck is really good. There's cards like that in Magic the Gathering where you get to see the top card of your opponent's deck, and it's really knowledgeable. But until the game slows down from being massive burst damage, I don't think this card is ever going to take the spot over like Gravity Bubble, over Gravity Field. Trying to think of what the Gravity one is, where you Anti-Gravity Field, yeah, where you draw a card, it could deal 14 damage, in like that kind of thing. You never know. Maybe this is really good in the Grand Halavar deck. Maybe it really wants to know what the top card of everyone's library is. I don't know, but it's a card that can be run in that deck. So I really hope this finds a spot sometime, because I think this is just a really thematically fun card to play, and I'm definitely going to run some Astral decks with this just to have some fun with my opponents. Playing this in multiplayer is going to be insane. It's going to be nuts. Everyone's deck gets flipped over, so you get to just look at everyone. Everyone is now planning what everyone's doing in the future, and they're not going to think about what they're doing now. Everyone's going to try and plan a few turns ahead, and you're just going to be like, I already know what I'm doing because I've been doing this for the past 3 turns. You guys can play catch up with me. That's what is going to be really fun about this card. All right, Coronal Loop. 2 solar, 1 lunar. 10 damage. Move this to your deck if your last discarded card is Gravity. All right. Once again, a really solid combo attack card. I think this is going to be run quite a bit, actually, because not only, like I said, solar and lunar, really, really potent. Solar's your really hit damage having ones. So even with Mirror Beast being able to return to your deck with Gravity on top, you're consistently doing that for 3 turns. Then you use those Mirror Beasts that you've been doing 3 damage for a while to lay Coronal Loop. Gravity's still on top. You put Coronal Loop back into your deck along with the other cards that you paid for it. That's 10 more damage. That's an extra combo you get to do. And I'm trying to think. I think blue is really the only other color that brings you combos back into your deck. I know Nature has ways to bring combo buffs back into play and all this other stuff, but just having a 10 damage card that you don't have to worry about going into your discard pile. Like you can keep playing over and over and over again, especially if you just don't use those 3 cards. Like if you think about it late game, you have a card you have 2 solars and a gravity or a lunar. You have gravity on top. You pay those cards Corona Loop. All 4 cards get shuffled back into your deck. Then you draw those 4 cards, play Corona Loop again, shuffle them all back. You just keep doing that until it's essentially a way to never get decked out, to never have the deck out game. You could get milled. That's fine, but it's a way so that you never reach deck out. In an Astral deck, you always have 10 damage. You always have this stuff going, and even for the fact that if it's 2 Mirror Beasts, you can Mirror Beast while you draw those 1 card a turn to then deal 10 damage. Then draw Mirror Beast again, Mirror Beast while you draw those cards back, and then you Corona Loop. So I think this card is actually going to see a lot of play. I think it's a 4-star combo. It's definitely not going to take the place of cards like Anti-Gravity Field, combos like Planetary Alignment, stuff that does just 12 damage, because the way Astral plays the way that almost every deck plays is very aggressive. You just want the damage out, you want the cards out of your deck so you can draw the other cards back in. But I'm hoping the game, like I said, I hope it turns into more of a cyclical stuff. I really hope it does kind of that thing where the game will last a little longer. Mind you, there is time limits in tournaments, so you never know. Maybe people are just consistently looking for the faster decks to make sure they get all their times in so they don't run into the time loop. But I think in the app, this card is going to see a lot more play in ladder because there's no time limit in ladder. There's just consistent damage that's going to help you win the long games. I think this buff is going to see, or attack is going to see a lot of play in ladder, but it's only a 4-star because I don't think you'll see this card, unfortunately, in a lot of tournament decks. Simply because tournaments rely on time rules and moving it back into your deck for 10 damage as opposed to putting Planetary Alignment on top for 12 damage of your discard pile and then going through your deck to look for the cards that you need is going to be way more beneficial to make sure you get all three games done within 50 minutes. So it is going to be a 4-star card, and I think it's going to see a lot of play on the app, but probably not at tournaments. That's what I'm saying. That's how this card is going to go. All right, Cosmic Chaos. All right, 1 of each one. Awesome. I love seeing those buffs or combos where it's 1 of each. Really helps pay for the other combos. Really fits in almost any deck. All right, 4 damage. Discard the top 3 cards from your recipient's deck. If they include a combo, deal an additional hit of 4 damage. I really don't see this card being played. It has a lot of potential for some fun stuff. If you run it with the buff like Antimatter Field, where you can see what their top card is, or if you're playing it where you're having them drawn, you can reveal all the cards, so you're counting like how many combos in their hand, what are the chances of not doing it. 8 damage compared to Planetary Alignment for 12. Mind you, okay, you discard 3 cards from their deck. Cool. A lot of decks right now have Graveyard Synergy to bring cards back from their discard pile. So maybe like putting it in their discard pile isn't that big of a deal to them unless it's a combo. Like if it's a combo, awesome. Then you deal 4 more damage. But it's just, okay, you deal 4 damage and mill 3. With a lot of decks right now playing get action cards back, put action cards back to the bottom of your deck, all this stuff, milling is not going to be as important as it was before. So really this card is going to read deal 4 damage, delay your opponent a little bit. Is what this card is going to read. People are not going to run this over Planetary Alignment. People are not even probably going to run this over the other one that is all 3 of them. Trying to think of what that one is. Actually, there isn't, is there? Is there another combo that's 1 of each? Oh, Gravity Bubble. Duh, Gravity Bubble. Is definitely not going to be run. Gravity Bubble is always going to be run over this one. Gravity Bubble is also a defend card, so it's awesome. But yeah, this is just, it's a minor inconvenience card for your opponent. It's not going to see almost any play. This is a 1-star combo. This is just it's trying to do something that now with Kindred in play with all these other new cards manipulating it, it doesn't do what it wants to do well enough to make it a good card. It's not going to see any play. That's what I'm saying. Enlightenment. Well, okay, I do admit, if you're playing against combo cards and you want certain combo pieces to be milled, this is a good sideboard one. I will say that. If you want to put Mimicking Core in a deck, if you want to put a specific card that has burn in their discard pile, if you want to put Root Singer, stuff like that, in their discard pile, it could be good. Maybe it's a sideboard one. But still, I'm giving it 1 star because I really don't think it's going to see any play. I think there's other ways to go around it. Enlightenment. One solar, one gravity. Draw 3 cards face up. Each solar card revealed deals 2 damage to your target. Each lunar card revealed heals you for 2. So, what I would really actually like to see from this, when this defend, is be a solar and lunar one. So it can be run in a solar and lunar deck, where you have just solar and lunar. Mind you, having this be gravity means that this deck, or this combo, is only going to be good in a full astral deck, unless you really just want damage. But even if you do, if you draw anything that's not solar, this is just draw 3 cards. And there is already a combo buff for Astral. Title Shift, draw 2 cards, heal for 6. That's already a lot better. And mind you, that one is solar and lunar, and it heals you. Drawing for 3 in Astral it's really easy to do, is to draw cards in Astral. Like you're not going to worry about drawing cards. And even if you do, think about it this way. This is, okay, draw 3 cards, deal a maybe max of 6 damage, or maybe heal for 6. Maybe. This card is not going to see any play compared to the other buffs. This card I'm giving a 1-star rating to. It's just not potent enough. It's not good enough compared to the combos that they've put out in the past. That drawing 3 cards over 2 is going to make any amount of difference. I can't think of, maybe Askavar, like it's the Askavar deck is solar and gravity, so it's like, okay, you want a 1 put in there. So maybe it's like, okay, maybe I just really want something to draw cards. But then it also runs gravity, which is where all the card draw is from. So why would you ever want to play this card to then potentially maybe, like, if you draw 3 cards and they're dread and the gravity, this card is just draw 3 cards for 2. Why would you ever want to do that? It's not a good card. It's really not a good card. I'm going to give this a 1-star rating. Like, it's not going to see play compared to everything else that you could be running over it. Eternal Dawn. 1 damage to your target at the end of your turn. Increases by 3 if your last discarded card is solar. This card cannot be removed if your last discarded card is lunar. See, this is what I wish would have been done. This is also solar and lunar, so it works well in that deck that can only use the 2. So it's really good. So I mean, think about it this way: at the end of your turn, so you lay this card, and it automatically has an effect on the board, which is awesome. It's not wait until the start of your turn. It's not when something happens, it does this. So the buff has an immediate effect on the game the moment you lay it. If solar's on top, awesome, deals 4 damage. If you have something like planetary alignment or something that's solar and lunar, it does both of them. And having a buff that just deals damage and cannot be removed is really good. And like I said, I think that in the Chimchu decks, where you're gonna see a lot of stuff, where the elemental one, Reality Twister, is gonna make it so the top card of your discard pile is everything. I think this card is gonna see a lot of play actually in a certain deck. Probably not like a lot of decks. I'm not sure what, if any hybrid heroes out there are solar and lunar cross. I can't think off the top of my head which ones are. Yeah, because the lunar ones are Halvar, which is lunar gravity. There is the Dread Astral one, which is solar gravity. I can't think of one that's solar lunar and something else. I cannot think of it. So this one doesn't even fit a mythical one. But I want to say this is gonna get. It's gonna get a 3-star rating. It's gonna get a 3-star, which is really sad because it's a 4-cost combo, which I really wanted to see higher of it. But if you're running Reality Twister, this combo becomes amazing. It's 4 damage a turn at the end of your turn, so you can lead it up. You can do all this stuff. So it's not. It's also not at the beginning of your turn, which is where a lot of the cards say prevent the first 2 damage at the turn. So it's not like this one will counteract that. You can do some other stuff. You can do some really fun manipulation, and then have this go off for 4 damage at the end of your turn. You can also manipulate it so where if you want the 4 damage as opposed to being removed, you can put solar on top so it deals the 4 damage before your turn comes up, and then they have a chance to remove it, or you can put lunar and all this other stuff to make it reduced to 1. So having it be at the end of the turn is a really good way of playing this combo buff, and I'm really happy they did that. But I don't think it's going to get more than a 3-star rating because it's a buff that a lot of people are probably not going to worry too much about removing, because it's like, okay, if I can remove it, it's dealing 4 damage to me. If I can't remove it, it's only dealing 1. 1 damage is really easily negatable unless it starts building up, unless you can do all this other stuff to make it deal increased damage. But yeah, with the Reality Twister, I think this is going to be an amazing card. Without it, it's one of those like Stellar Fusion where it's increases, but it can't be removed to Solar's on top. However, Stellar Fusion was also like it doesn't require the top card to be something else for it to increase. It just increases damage, and as long as Solar's on top, it can't be removed. So I think that card is always going to be run over this one. Mind you, it does have gravity in it too, so it can A, pay for other combos, but B, can't be spliced in where this one can be if you're running a specific high or mythical hero where you want to splash in, say, Solar or Lunar or something like that, and have this be out there. But yeah, I think just based on, like I said, the current meta, this is going to be something that is a 3-star rating. It's not going to be something you're going to run over certain other buffs. But it's a solid one. It's a solid, well-made combo buff. I just don't think, from what I've seen right now in the past meta with the current old decks, the tournament winning ones, this one is going to fit as a replacement for any of those buffs or any of those combos that just deal 12 damage, 14 damage, all that stuff. So 3-star, I hope it finds a place soon with more perpetual damage, but Astral right now just does so much better at massive burst damage turns that they don't really care about dealing 3 or 4 damage a turn. That's what I'm seeing from it. Alright, Featherstorm. 1 Solar, 1 Lunar. 5 damage. Heal yourself for 3. Instead, increase both effects by 2 if your last discarded card is Chimchu. This is a solid card. I mean, this is just, for 2 cards, 5 damage, heal for 3. So essentially, like, you pay with it with a Chimchu Militant and a Dusk Feeder. This card does both. But if the last discarded card is Chimchu, if you're playing a Chimchu deck, it's going to be better than a Militant, and not really better than a Dusk Feeder if it's Solar on top, I believe. But it's going to heal for 5, deal 7 damage, which for 2 is just really good. I think in aggressive style, this actually could see a lot of play. It's minor healing, it's minor damage. You already have a lot of cards in Astral already that draw you cards. So your action cards are going to be doing all this stuff that your combos, you don't really need that much card draw. So I could see this one easily taking over for Tidal Shift, where Tidal Shift is just 6 healing, draw 2 cards. Mind you, the card draw could be better if you're running a more tower deck, where you want the cards to draw you 2 defend cards and you can rotate your towers and all that stuff. But just having a card that heals for 3 and deals 5, just an 8-point swing for a 2-cost card, that could be really good. I'm going to give this a 4-star rating. This one, it takes the place, in my opinion, takes the place of more aggressive style than Tidal Shift did. In a Chimchu deck, it's a 12-point swing, like Planetary Alignment, but for 1 less. I think this card is a really well-designed card. Pumps up the family, but is still a solid combo card. I feel like some of their combos really should rely on this, where it should be it's a good card in Central, but if you play it in the right deck, it becomes much more better. Where it's not like a terrible card outside of this family, but inside the family it's incredibly good. I think they need to start leaning more towards this, in my opinion, where they just make a solid card. Just build a solid card. But then if it's played within a family, it becomes like twice as good. It becomes so much better if played in a certain deck. Otherwise, it's like they either make a deck for a certain family, or that card is just never seen play. Never seen play. It's not worth the 50 cents that you pull it from a pack for or whatever. That's what I think this is a really good example of a staple of how these combos should be made. And I really like it. I really do. I think this is a 4-star combo that fits really well in the families. It's just a really solid combo on its own. I'm really happy about it. I really like the fact that they made this card, and I think it's going to see a lot of play. Lunar Ascension. Okay, we have 2 Lunar, 2 Gravities. We finally figured out we have Reality Rift, Lunar Ascension, and the one that I gave a really bad rating to, Eternal Dawn. So here's the third one. All right. So four corners all have an ability. When you gain additional actions, draw a card. This is going to make or break Astral in such a way that especially like I said, in that Chimchu deck where it'll go off. Having Astral with all the cards that gain you additional actions, if you're drawing cards while doing that, you could potentially build a deck where the moment you lay this buff, and if it stays out for 1 whole turn, you play your entire deck. You just get so many additional actions. You lay weapons so that you have mastery over all 3, and then you just go off. You just go nuts on your deck, on your cards. You lay like 10 cards in a turn, drawing cards all while doing it to go through your deck, and as soon as you can't lay the same name card any more times, you're done with all the masteries, Next turn, you do it all over again if they haven't removed it. Like that's what nuts power level this card is. That I think this is like a 5-star combo. This card is so threatening in Astral that the moment someone lays it, they have to remove it, or they are in for a world of hurt. Just because like the only reason you're going to play this is when you have the cards to go off next turn. You're never going to play it and then be like, okay, well I draw 2. Well, okay, I draw 2. Mind you, it's 4 turns of you can build up more, but like the immediate effect for getting additional actions and then drawing cards, it's gonna make cards like the Celestian Oracle. I think that's the name. The Snowcast Elder. Wow, completely different. Snowcast Elder, 2 damage or 2 healing, get an additional action. So lay that card, draw a card, get an additional action. It doesn't say when you gain additional actions instead of draw a card. It's when you get additional actions, you also draw a card. So your additional actions, your cards that say additional actions, also should just say draw 1 card. And with that, you go nuts. Astral, I've seen on the app alone right now without Kindred, there was a guy that laid 5 cards in a turn, so he got 3 additional actions. So mind you, with that, that's 3 card draw. So like just from this combo alone, you can see the potential of card draw that Astral has and can get, and it's ridiculous. It's so good. This card, I think, is going to find a spot in almost every Astral deck, just because of getting additional actions, drawing you cards, will make their play style so much more different than just saying, okay, I'm going to do this, like play a Chimchu Militant and an Umbreon Informant to draw cards. No, you're going to want to take Umbreon Informant out almost, because once this card goes off, you're going to draw as many cards as you want. There's already cards out there that draws you 2 for 1. Like, it's just so ridiculous that this card is it's gonna make or break Astral, in my opinion. Where it's a thing that you want to lay this fairly mid-game. Late game's not going to do you too much unless you have ways to get cards back into your deck to repeat this cycle. But it's going to be like a mid-game card where you lay it once you have a good, decent hand size, and you just go off, which also is like a little detriment, because when you want to lay this card is when your opponent has all their buff removal. It's when they've been storing up cards, defending and preparing, and they have a good hand size too, unless you're playing aggro. That you want to actually start laying some of your more threatening buffs really early, so that they waste or use their buff removal on those buffs, so that when this one comes out, they don't have any more buff removal, or they've used it all in their hand, they have to look for it. So like I said, when you lay this card, you want to have a lot of cards in your hand to go off with it. That's plain and simple. But you also want to play it in a way where you almost know your opponent can't buff removal, which comes from the knowledgeable cards. Hey, Trio G, it's going pretty good. I'm actually almost done. I think I only have a few more combos left here to review. After that, obviously, this is going to be up on the Twitch channel. It's also going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel. If you look below the video, there's a link to my YouTube channel, because I don't have a certain name for it, so it's better just to copy and paste it. Hey, Chasm, how's it going, man? Nice for stopping by. So yeah, I really hope you guys are enjoying it. Check out the review once it's all done. I know we're at 2.5 hours. We're almost done with the set. So yeah, like I said, I'll be uploading this video everywhere, so you guys can look at it. It'll be really cool. I actually think I only have like 2 more combos past this one, so we're almost done. Hey! But yeah, back to the card. This is a 5-star combo. It's going to be an amazing card. But it's one of those, like, you have to play it properly. What is also really scary is you can run this card along with Reality Rift and bring this combo back, bring this buff back, because it doesn't have burn. So you can lay it, they'll remove it, you Reality Rift later in the game, bring Lunar Ascension back, and just go off again. And there's so many ways that Astral can do this, and I really think that Astral, just from reviewing this set, not really looking at the other cards, Astral is going to be a dominant force. This is just really Trio GG. Are you serious? 6 hours away? Oh man, that hurts. That hurts. I'm sorry. There's some great online sites that you can buy boxes from. So I hope you enjoy this game. Get your friends to play it. Maybe even go to your local game store and get them to play it. There's people that I know that I can. If you want to reach out to me, I can reach out to them. Let me know the area you're in. Let me know the stores. I'll get in contact with them, and they can start trying to get your local game stores to carry it, so that you can have a more central base, because this game has maybe been out for a little over a year, and they're really on a way to Arkansas. Okay. Yeah, but I feel like they're really on a way to really build this up. So let me know, and I'll get a hold of people from PlayFusion and see what we can do for you, because I would love for more people in your area to start going. I'd love this game to just expand because it's an amazing game. I really do. All right, back to the review. So that's my opinion. This is a 5-star combo. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be seen in a lot of decks. The way its payment alignment is, too, it can pay for a lot of really good combos. It itself can pay for anti-gravity field, which is just a really good card. So I think this one is going to be put into a lot of decks. So I cannot wait to see what everyone does with this card, because I know for a fact I'm going to be playing it, and I'm gonna knock everyone's socks off, and it's going to be awesome. All right, we got Moon Warp. Moon Warp, 2 lunar, 1 gravity. So this one, Lunar Ascension, can pay for Moon Warp. Awesome. I love seeing these synergies. I love seeing it go off like that. Actually, Lunar Ascension can also be fit into the Grand Halavar deck, which could just be really good. I mean, this Grand Halavar could be amazing just because of this combo. Back to Moon Warp. 4 corners, 3, 3, 3, 4. Corners 1 to 3 reduce damage received by rotation. Corner 4, increase damage dealt to other heroes by. This one, once again, leads me into believe that more Astral is going to be a more one-turn swing type of deck, as opposed to what we've seen in the past, where it has been more cyclical damage with the towers, or just have really big swing turns where it draws a lot of cards, deals a lot of damage with the towers and all this stuff, where you're going to put this out for Moon Warp, you're going to prevent it for 3 turns, and then on that 4th turn, after you've been drawing all your cards, after you've been building this up, you're just going to go ham. You're going to do so many actions in one turn, you're going to be drawing cards. Like, this, I feel like, with Moon Warp, is going to fit into a certain type of deck where it's going to be kind of how Storm Shaman is for blue, where you're going to have that one really big turn, but Astral also has a really good thing where they get additional actions, where they draw cards. So it could be a lot better that, which is why it's in a combo form, which is what I really like. I want to put Moon Warp actually up to a, heck, even like a 4-star combo. I think this is going to be a really good card, mostly because the first 3 corners are just damage prevention. It's a wall you put up as you build to your damage. It's a very threatening buff that your opponent will look at and see, okay, I know it's coming. Like a lot of the really good buffs, I know what's coming, but right now it prevents them from saying, okay, how do I get rid of this? I have no buff removal, so I'll just spike damage him down. I'll Flame Bat, I'll Magma Spitter, like I'll Spark Wisp, I'll do all this stuff to kill him. You got damage prevention for the next 3 turns for 3, which is a lot. It turns Spark Wisp into 2 damage. It turns Flame Bat into 2 damage. It turns a lot of this stuff just into minimal damage, which you can just heal through. You can Dusk Feeder for 7, you can do all this other stuff to heal for 7, and then once that turn comes, you've used all your defend cards to heal, so you just start going off with your Chimchu stuff. So I think this card has a really good place in Astral right now, the way that Astral has been going, to really see a lot of this playstyle. And I mean, even running it with Moon Warp and Lunar Ascension, 2 really good combos. I think that we're going to see a lot come out of just these 2 combos alone in a deck, with just a massive, massive burst style deck with Astral. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to try and build it myself, because I think that's just going to be annoying as all get out, along with being able to still do some pretty decent, consistent damage from buffs and from Ashen cards and all this other stuff. I'm trying to think of what's the lunar gravity one. We have Force Field, which is just damage reduction. So like, for 1 more lunar, it's essentially the same buff. You just it has 1 more corner, which increases damage. You have Lunar Alignment, which is essentially the same buff, but it's you're immune to damage. So like, putting this one over Lunar Alignment, I would say is actually completely fine. Lunar Alignment, the only thing it really prevents more from is combos. Combo damage can still get through a lot of this, whereas Lunar Alignment is just complete damage reduction. It's just complete, no, you can't touch me, you're not going to do anything. So I think this is actually going to find a really good home in Astral. I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. I really think they did a really good job with these. And with saying that, the last buff we have is also Lunar Astral, or Lunar Gravity. 3-3-3, or 3-3-4-0. Reduce damage received by all other heroes, or reduce damage received by rotation. All other heroes' items are dormant. Now, I said it before in that other, in the action card review with the 1 gravity card, 3 damage, all your items are dormant, or opponent's items are dormant if this is on top. That one I like immediately gave a really good review for, because I think that's going to change the game, where it blew my mind how I thought about it. I was like, oh, their abilities are just dormant, but it's like, no, if the item is dormant, anything they needed that item for their buffs now become dormant too, until you can get a way around this. So having this buff out here just to kind of be a wall for 3 turns, on their 4th turn, it's like, okay, well, there's no reduction. but their items are still going to be dormant for all 4 of those turns, is going to be really, really nuts. And just I mean, if you think about it as this way, for Solar Gravity, compared to this one, it's the same thing. Damage reduction, for third corner you get 4, whereas this one you get damage increase. This one, all other items, heroes are dormant. And if this one got a 4-star rating, this one, I want to give this one a 5-star rating. This is going to be an amazing buff that you're going to see in almost every Astral deck. It only costs 2 for really good right-away damage prevention, which is what Astral needed, in my opinion, which is why I'm really happy for that Chimchu card that it got. But then also it gets the benefit from literally like saying, hey, you know, all these really cool items that we're using, yeah, they're dormant. You can't use their abilities. You can't use cards that have the stuff that you really wanted to do. So if you splash it in for like Shadow and you wanted to use Tentacles, Tentacles don't go off of the abilities. You can't use your Shadow Puppets now. You can't do anything to remove this buff. This is going to see a lot of play in Astral, and I think this is going to be probably in almost every Astral deck that's not extremely aggression. It's Astral, from what I'm seeing, is going to lead more into the tempo to control from all these cards that we've got out, and this is going to be a staple for just early game. It is a buff without burn, so Reality Rift can bring it back. Like, Reality Rift, I think, is just one of the best combos made in the game in general, where it can just bring back these buffs and just do ridiculous things with them. That bringing back Super Gravity again for a second time could just be the dumbest thing we've ever seen in the world. That I really think this is a 5-star combo. I think you're going to see incredibly results from it. Everyone's going to play this card, even if they're just trying to splash in like a Luna or a Gravity and a hero that already plays one of the two. I really do think this is going to be an amazing card for not just Astral, but the game alone. Like, that's what I'm really happy to see, is a combo that can be utilized, because it only costs 2 alignments. It's just going to be really fun to play. Alright guys, that is it for the Astral review. I hope you guys understood where I was coming from. I hope I gave a very clear explanation of these cards. If you want to reach out to me, leave comments on the Twitch channel here. I have a Twitter account that I have stuff. You can tag me in Twitter stuff. Ask me questions. Catch me on the Light Seekers forum. Catch me on YouTube. I'm going to upload this. You can comment there. I'll read the comments, get back to you guys. I really want to try and grow this channel, so if you like it, give a follow below. I'm not sure if I'll make it this week. I only have 20 of you guys so far. I love all 20 of you, and I want to get more. But within these first month, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it till Kindred gets back up, because right now it's not even on the app, which is disappointing to a lot of people. But they're working on it. They're working on it really hard, and I really hope that it comes out soon so that we can start playing and start streaming all these really fun decks. So, yeah, that's my review for Astral. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys understood where I was coming from. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave a link on the YouTube channel when I post this up in like a half hour or so. So, awesome. Catch you guys later. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for talking with me. Thanks for enjoying my review stream. I hope you guys review or look at these cards in a different light with my explanations and start getting ideas for your own decks. Start thinking about what Chimchus can do. Start thinking about what Beasts can do for this set. Think about maybe even the Elementals. What the old cards can bring to the new cards, or what the new cards can bring to old decks. Start thinking that way. I want to see all these new different deck concoctions. I don't want to see the same tournament-winning decks with like 1 or 2 decks or cards splashed in going, yeah, I updated this deck, so now it's going to be fine. I don't want to see that. I've seen that in way too many card games. I want to see brand new ideas, brand new decks. I want to see it all, and I really hope that my reviews can help people think the way that I'm trying to think, or just think on their own to get a brand new perspective to build these fun decks and try ladder without playing Mimicking Hortriana, without playing Dolo, without playing Cassini Tower deck. I want to bring new light to this game where people aren't just looking at a list, copying it, and trying to climb ladder. They want to come up with their own concoctions, and that's what I love, is deck building, and I really, really hope you guys do too. So thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you very much for enjoying it. I'm sorry I didn't get to talk to a whole lot of you. Trio GG, thanks for stopping by. I really hope that next time I'm on Wednesday evening from like 7 to 10, we can talk a little more there. That's more of a casual stream. I play the game. I talk to you guys. This weekend, because the game isn't out, I try to do the reviews. So catch me on the weekends for these reviews. I'm going to try and do once a weekend. Wednesday, I'm just going to play from 7 to 10. Just have some fun with you guys. Just talk, and really hope to get the community growing that way. So thank you guys very much for stopping by. I hope you had a lot of fun like I did. And I will catch you guys on Wednesday. Feel free to follow below. Check out my YouTube channel and give a follow there. Let's try and grow this community, shall we? All right. Hope you guys are having a fun night, fun Saturday, or not Saturday, Sunday afternoon. All right. Peace.